Welcome to Sleep Easy, where the stars beckon and the quiet rhythm of the universe invites you to unwind. I'm so glad you've chosen to join us for this peaceful journey. Tonight's story is called Starlight Dreams, Journey Beyond the Horizon. In this tale, we follow Emma, a young dreamer who embarks on an extraordinary adventure beyond the stars. Guided by the mysterious and powerful Navigator's key, Emma travels with her companions, Jonah and Orion, through realms of time and space, encountering the Dreambreakers, an ancient force determined to unravel the fabric of the universe. As they journey through the vastness of the cosmos, Emma learns that the heart of all creation lies at the center of the stars, and only by restoring balance can the universe be saved. Tonight, Emma's adventure will take her to the very edge of existence, where she must face the forces that shape reality itself and choose whether to preserve the stars or allow them to fade into nothingness. Now, as you settle into a comfortable position, take a deep, slow breath. Let the weight of your body sink into the surface beneath you, and with each exhale, feel the tension drift away. Allow your thoughts to soften, your mind to quiet, as you prepare to journey into the dreamscape. Let the gentle glow of starlight guide you, and as the story begins, feel yourself floating beyond the horizon. Emma Blake had always been fascinated by the night sky. Growing up in a small town tucked between rolling hills and vast forests, she had the luxury of looking up at a sky untainted by city lights. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma would retreat to the roof of her old farmhouse, her favorite spot to escape the mundane world and lose herself in the mysteries of the cosmos. The stars were her constant companions, silent, distant, and beautiful. She loved the way they sparkled like diamonds scattered across a velvet blanket, each one telling a story of a time long past. Sometimes, she imagined herself traveling to those stars, exploring the planets that orbited them, visiting alien worlds where life took forms she could hardly comprehend. But it was just a dream, a wish she carried quietly in her heart, knowing it was too far out of reach to ever come true. But one night, as she lay on her back on the roof, something changed. The air was cool, crisp with the promise of autumn, and a faint breeze rustled the leaves of the trees below. She stretched her arms out and stared into the sky, trying to find her favorite constellation, Orion, the hunter. She found it easily, its 3 stars forming the belt that guided the way to countless other constellations. Then, something strange happened. At first, Emma thought it was her imagination. A soft, almost imperceptible whisper seemed to come from the stars themselves, carried on the wind. She sat up, straining to listen, but the world around her was still. Only the rustling of the trees filled the air. Yet, when she lay back down and closed her eyes again, the whisper returned. It was as if the stars were calling to her. But the message was unclear, distant, like a song just beyond her hearing. Emma's heart raced. Was she imagining things? She looked up at the sky again, her eyes searching for some kind of sign, something that would explain the strange sensation stirring in her chest. Suddenly, a small, silver flash streaked across the sky, a shooting star, but this one was different. It moved more slowly than any Emma had ever seen, and it left a faint trail of light that lingered longer than normal, as if the star itself was trying to guide her. Emma blinked in disbelief. Her pulse quickened. She had seen shooting stars countless times before, but this felt different, like the universe itself was trying to communicate with her. The air seemed charged with energy, the sky brighter than it had ever been. She could almost feel the stars pulling her in, drawing her toward them. Then, as if in response to her thoughts, the whisper returned. This time, it was clearer, more distinct, though still faint. She could make out a single word, "Come." The word echoed in her mind, and for a moment, she wondered if she had imagined it. But it felt real, so real that she could almost see the word written in the sky. The stars twinkled more brightly, as though urging her to follow. Without thinking, Emma stood up, her feet moving before her mind could catch up. She glanced around, feeling a strange sense of urgency. The night felt different now, full of possibilities, full of something more. She went inside the house, barely aware of the wooden floors creaking beneath her feet. Her eyes searched the shelves, the drawers, the piles of old books and papers that littered her room. There, on her desk, lay an envelope, one she didn't remember ever receiving. It was sealed with a strange, intricate symbol, a shape she hadn't seen before, yet somehow it felt familiar. Emma opened the envelope, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside, there was a single sheet of parchment, folded neatly in half. She unfolded it, her breath catching in her throat as she read the message written in an elegant script. "The stars are waiting for you. Follow the light." Her heart skipped a beat. Was this a prank? A piece of art? She turned the page over, but there was nothing else written. No sender's name, no address. Just those cryptic words. She felt a chill run down her spine. The whisper she had heard earlier, the strange feeling in the air, all of it came rushing back. She suddenly realized that the invitation was meant for her. She didn't know how, but she felt it deep in her soul. Follow the light. Emma repeated softly, her mind racing with thoughts of what it could mean. Her eyes flickered back to the sky, where the stars continued to shimmer, their light brighter now, as though they were beckoning her. There was no more time to doubt. Emma grabbed her jacket and ran outside, her footsteps swift and sure. She knew that this was no ordinary night. The stars were calling her, and she had no choice but to answer. As she walked across the field toward the hills, the air grew warmer, and the whispering seemed to grow louder. It wasn't just a voice in the wind anymore. It was in the very fabric of the universe itself, speaking directly to her, guiding her towards something unknown. The stars above shimmered as if in agreement, their light tracing a path in the sky. Emma didn't question where it would lead. She followed the light, trusting that it would take her exactly where she needed to go. And so, under the vast, endless sky, Emma Blake began her journey. A journey that would take her farther than she could ever imagine, into the heart of the universe itself. A journey that had begun with a whisper, but would soon change the course of her life forever. Emma's footsteps were light against the damp earth, her breath coming in quick, excited bursts as she followed the shimmering trail in the sky. The stars had grown even brighter now, as though acknowledging her presence, guiding her towards something she couldn't yet understand. It felt as though the very air around her was alive, humming with a quiet, ethereal energy. She glanced up once more, her heart pounding in her chest. The stars weren't just distant points of light anymore. They were calling her, urging her forward. The wind picked up, swirling around her as if to guide her through the dense forest ahead. Emma wasn't sure how far she had walked, but the trees seemed to part just enough to reveal a path, as if it had always been there, waiting for her. The whisper was no longer a faint sound, it had become a melody, flowing with the breeze and resonating deep within her soul. "Come," it urged once more. The word echoed in her mind like a sacred chant, carrying with it an overwhelming sense of destiny. And then, she saw it. At the edge of the forest, beyond a small clearing, stood an ancient structure, half hidden by the trees. Its shape was unlike anything Emma had ever seen, a massive, metallic structure with strange symbols carved into its surface. The building seemed to shimmer faintly, glowing with an inner light that wasn't entirely natural. The air around it hummed, vibrating with an energy that made her skin tingle. She stopped in her tracks, her breath catching in her throat. It was beautiful. It looked almost alive, like something ancient and sacred. And as she took another step forward, she noticed something even more unusual: the entrance. The doorway was wide open, but no one stood guard. No warnings or signs. Just an invitation, as though the building was waiting for her, and her alone. She hesitated only for a moment before stepping inside. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, the door seemed to close behind her, sealing her inside with a soft hum. The interior was vast, far larger than the structure appeared from the outside. A soft, blue light illuminated the space, casting long shadows on the walls, which were covered in even more intricate symbols. The floor was smooth and reflective, as if the ground itself were made of glass. At the far end of the chamber stood a platform, encircled by glowing runes. But it wasn't the space that left her breathless. It was the figure standing on the platform. A man, no, a being, stood there, tall and graceful, surrounded by a soft, otherworldly glow. His features were androgynous, with sharp eyes that gleamed like distant stars, and his hair flowed like liquid silver, cascading around his shoulders. He wore a robe made of something that shimmered like the night sky, studded with tiny, glowing dots that shifted and moved as if they were alive. The being's eyes locked with Emma's, and she felt a sudden, overwhelming pull, like she had known him all her life, even though she had never seen him before. "Emma Blake," the being said, his voice rich and melodic, carrying a weight that seemed to come from deep within the universe itself. "You have come." She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. There was something familiar about him, yet he seemed impossibly distant, like a dream half remembered. He stepped forward, and the air around him seemed to ripple with energy. "You are the last," he continued, his voice softer now, yet it resonated in every corner of the room. "The last of the dreamers." Emma took a step back, confusion spreading through her. "The last of the dreamers?" she repeated, her voice shaky. "What do you mean? Who are you?" The being smiled gently, his eyes softening with an ancient, almost sorrowful wisdom. "I am Orion," he said simply. "And I have been waiting for you, Emma. For a long time." Her heart raced. Orion? The name felt both strange and familiar. The constellation she had always admired. The hunter of the stars. But what was he doing here, in this alien place? What is this place?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why am I here?" Orion looked around the chamber with a distant gaze. "This is Orion's wake," he said. "A space between worlds, a place outside of time. It is where the dreamers have come for eons, those who have walked between the stars, shaping the fabric of the universe with their dreams. But you, Emma, are different. You are the last." "The last?" she repeated. "Of what?" "The last dreamer," Orion said, his voice filled with a quiet sadness. "The dreamers once guided the stars, crafting the paths that the worlds would take. They dreamed of what could be, and their dreams became reality. But something has changed. The dreamers have vanished, lost to time, and the balance of the universe is faltering. The stars are dimming, and the cosmic threads are unraveling. There is no one left to guide them." He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "But you are here now, and you will restore the balance." Emma's mind spun with questions. I don't understand. Why me? I'm just me. I've never done anything special." Orion's smile was gentle, but full of profound understanding. "You are more than you realize. Every dream, every thought you have shapes the world around you. It always has. You've always had the potential to be a dreamer, Emma. But it is now, in this moment, that you must awaken to your true purpose." Emma's head swam as the weight of his words settled over her. "What am I supposed to do?" "You will learn," Orion said, his tone full of quiet certainty. "There is much to discover, much to understand. The stars have been waiting for you. And soon, they will guide you to the answers you seek." A strange, shimmering light appeared above the platform. The stars outside the structure seemed to draw closer, their light coalescing into a single, bright point. It was as though the very universe itself was coming to life around her. Emma felt a surge of power, a strange, quiet force filling her mind and heart. The stars were calling her. And deep inside, she knew it was no longer a choice. She was meant for this. The last dreamer. The one who would restore balance to the universe. Orion stepped back, his gaze never leaving hers. It begins now, Emma. You are no longer just a dreamer. You are the dreamer. And the stars will show you the way. Emma stood on the platform, her heart racing as Orion's words reverberated through her mind. The last dreamer. The one who would restore balance to the universe. It felt like a weight, yet a thrilling kind of responsibility, like something deep within her had been awakened, a dormant part of herself that she had never known existed. Orion's presence was both calming and powerful, like the stillness before a storm. He smiled at her with quiet understanding, sensing the torrent of emotions swirling inside her. Are you ready, Emma? He asked softly, his voice like a distant echo, as though it came from all corners of the universe at once. Her eyes flickered toward the glowing light that had appeared above the platform. The stars were shifting, forming intricate patterns and constellations that seemed to beckon her, pulling her toward them. Every fiber of her being felt like it was being drawn toward the vastness of space itself, as though the universe were calling her name. I think so, Emma replied, though her voice wavered. She still didn't fully understand what she was meant to do, but something deep inside her, something primal and ancient, told her that this was the path she had been waiting for. The path the stars had set for her. Orion nodded, his expression one of approval. Then it is time, he said simply, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the chamber. With a gesture, he raised his hand, and the platform beneath Emma began to hum, vibrating with energy. The floor shimmered and rippled, like the surface of a calm lake, disturbed by a gentle breeze. A beam of light shot up from the center of the platform, surrounding her with a soft, ethereal glow. Hold on to your purpose, Emma, Orion said, his voice calm but resolute. What you are about to experience is unlike anything you have ever known. You will cross the boundary between the known and the unknown. The stars will guide you, but it is your heart that must lead the way. Emma nodded, the weight of his words settling deep within her. She could feel the warmth of the light enveloping her, and as she closed her eyes, the world around her seemed to dissolve, leaving only the sensation of weightlessness. The next moment, she was no longer standing on the platform. She was soaring, floating in the infinite expanse of space. The stars surrounded her on all sides, their light piercing the vast dark void, each one a beacon of possibility. She could feel the pulse of the universe itself, like the beating of a heart, steady and eternal. Emma gasped, a rush of awe and wonder flooding her senses. The enormity of it all was overwhelming, yet strangely familiar, as though she had always belonged here among the stars. She had always dreamed of this moment, of flying through space, but now that it was real, it felt like an undeniable part of her. Far below her, she could see Earth, a small, blue marble floating against the blackness, suspended in the vast sea of stars. It looked so distant now, so small, yet it was home. A home she could no longer touch, but one that she could never forget. Orion's voice echoed in her mind. Look beyond what you know. The stars are not just lights in the sky. They are the gateways to everything. To the unknown. To the future. To the dreams of those who came before you. And now, Emma, you will travel beyond them. The light around her shifted, transforming into a soft, flowing current that carried her forward. Emma felt her body move through the space as though she were part of it, part of the infinite sky. The stars seemed to dance around her, drawing her in with their radiant glow. She passed through nebulae of swirling gas and dust, their colors vivid and alive, painting the darkness in shades of purple, blue, and pink. She sailed past planets of all sizes, some small and rocky, others large and gaseous, their atmospheres swirling in patterns she could not comprehend. Each one was unique, each one holding its own mysteries, its own stories, its own life. For the first time in her life, Emma understood the scale of the universe. She was a small part of something so vast, so incomprehensible, that words could not capture its magnitude. Yet, in that vastness, she felt a deep connection, a thread that tied her to everything, from the smallest particle to the farthest star. Time seemed to lose all meaning as she drifted farther from Earth, and the space around her began to shift. The stars blurred into streams of light, and Emma felt herself being drawn into a swirling vortex, one that seemed to reach out, pulling her toward it with an almost magnetic force. Her heart raced as the vortex grew larger, and she realized it was not just a physical space. It was a passage, a gateway between worlds, between dimensions. She was about to cross into something new, something unknown, something she could not yet comprehend. As she entered the vortex, she felt a sudden rush of energy, a powerful surge that seemed to both lift her and pull her down. The universe around her twisted and reformed, and for a brief moment, Emma felt like she was suspended between two realities, one that was familiar, and another that was yet to be discovered. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the sensation stopped. The vortex opened into a new space, one that felt different. The stars were brighter here, the light more intense, as though the very fabric of the universe had shifted. Emma opened her eyes and saw that she had arrived at her destination, a vast, starry landscape unlike anything she had ever imagined. It was a place that existed beyond time and space, a realm where the stars themselves seemed to stretch out into eternity. Orion's voice once again filled her mind. Welcome, Emma. This is where your journey truly begins. Emma took a deep breath, her mind racing with questions, but one thing was certain. She had crossed into a new world, and this was only the beginning. The stars had shown her the way, and now she would follow them wherever they led. Emma stood still, suspended in the vast, endless expanse, gazing at the dazzling scene before her. The realm she had entered was nothing like she had ever imagined. The stars here were not just points of light, they were alive, pulsating with energy, as if the very fabric of the universe was breathing. The sky stretched out infinitely, and the constellations shimmered with colors she had never seen, their stars swirling in patterns that defied logic and time. There was a profound sense of peace here, but also an underlying power, a force that seemed to hum through the very air, as though this place existed outside of all creation and yet contained it all within. She took a tentative step forward, and as she did, the ground beneath her feet seemed to shimmer and shift. It wasn't solid like the earth she knew, but fluid and ethereal, almost like walking on water, yet without the risk of falling through. The stars above bent toward her, their light intensifying as if acknowledging her presence, watching her every move. Suddenly, a wave of energy surged through her, and a familiar voice echoed in her mind. "Do not be afraid, Emma." It was Orion. Her heart skipped a beat. She had been so consumed by the beauty of this place that she had forgotten for a moment the purpose that had brought her here. The last dreamer, guided by the stars, destined to restore balance to the universe. Her eyes scanned the horizon, searching for him. She had felt his presence before, but now she could feel it more strongly than ever. The very air was thick with his energy, pulling her in. And then she saw him. Orion's figure emerged from the swirling starfields, moving toward her with a grace that seemed to transcend time itself. He was surrounded by a soft, shimmering light, as if the stars themselves were forming a protective aura around him. His presence was commanding, yet calming, as though he was the embodiment of the stars themselves. He was not just a guide anymore, he was something more, something vast, an entity intertwined with the cosmos. Emma's breath caught in her throat as he approached. Despite his ethereal appearance, his eyes were unmistakable, those same radiant, piercing eyes that had first looked at her in the Orion's wake. But there was something different now. There was a depth in his gaze, a weight of knowledge and experience that spoke of eons of existence, of a connection to the universe that she could scarcely begin to understand. "You have come," he said, his voice gentle yet imbued with an undeniable power. "The stars have waited for you, Emma. But it is time now for you to take the first step of your journey." Emma swallowed hard, her mind still racing to catch up with everything that had happened. She wanted to ask so many questions, to demand answers to the swirling mysteries that filled her mind. But she stayed quiet, knowing, somehow, that it wasn't the right time. She had to trust this path, as uncertain as it seemed. Orion extended his hand toward her, his eyes filled with unspoken understanding. "Do not fear the unknown. The stars are your guides now, but you must learn to trust the whispers of the universe. It is through the stars that you will find the way." Emma hesitated only for a moment before she reached out. Her fingers brushed against his, and the moment their hands touched, a surge of energy coursed through her, flooding her mind with images and sensations that left her breathless. She saw stars being born in the heart of distant nebulae, planets forming from swirling dust and gas, and vast cosmic events unfolding across the universe, moments of creation, destruction, and everything in between. The threads of the universe stretched out before her, like a tapestry being woven in real time. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Emma blinked, her head spinning, but the sense of connection remained. She could still feel the energy of the universe coursing through her veins. The stars were not distant. They were part of her now. Orion withdrew his hand and stepped back, his gaze steady as he looked at her. You have touched the fabric of the universe, Emma. You have felt its pulse. Now, it is time for you to understand your place within it. He gestured toward the endless expanse before them. The stars have a song, Emma. A melody that guides the flow of time, the cycles of life, the path of every soul. And you must learn to hear it. Emma's heart raced as she looked out into the infinite sky. A song? What could he mean? She had always looked up at the stars and marveled at their beauty, but hearing them? She didn't know if that was even possible. Orion seemed to sense her doubt. It is not a song you hear with your ears, but with your soul. The stars speak to those who listen closely enough. Their melody is woven into the very fabric of reality. And it is through that song that you will learn your role as the dreamer. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over her. This was her purpose, her destiny. She had felt the stirrings of it before, in the whispers of the stars, in the vision she had experienced when touching Orion's hand. The universe was speaking to her, and now it was time to listen. The journey ahead of you will not be easy, Orion continued, his tone serious. There are forces at play that seek to disrupt the harmony of the stars. The balance is fragile, Emma. You will face challenges, and there will be times when you feel lost. But the stars will always guide you back. You must never forget that. Emma nodded slowly, absorbing his words. What do I do now? Orion's eyes softened. Now we begin. I will teach you how to hear the stars, how to understand their language. But first, you must learn the way of the dreamers, the ones who shape the paths of the universe with their thoughts, their desires, and their dreams. Emma's eyes widened. I'm a dreamer. But how do I begin? You are already beginning, Orion replied, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. Every step you take, every choice you make, is a dream in motion. But you must understand one thing, what you dream, Emma, will not only affect your path. It will shape the universe itself. The weight of his words settled on her, and she understood the gravity of her task. She wasn't just a passenger on this journey. She was an active participant in the fate of the universe. Every decision, every thought would ripple out across the stars, changing everything. Orion stepped back, his presence still powerful and calming. The first lesson begins now. Come, Emma. Let us walk the stars together. With those words, the stars seemed to part, forming a path before them. Orion extended his hand once more, and this time Emma didn't hesitate. She took it, and together, they began their journey into the infinite sky, into the heart of the universe. The path Orion led Emma down was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The stars parted, creating an avenue of shimmering light that stretched out into the endless expanse, as though the universe itself had opened a gateway for them. The air was cool, yet filled with a strange warmth, a welcoming energy that seemed to pulse with each step they took. The stars above were brighter now, almost tangible, twinkling with a rhythm that Emma felt deep within her chest, like the beating of her own heart. The vastness of the cosmos stretched out in every direction. Planets and nebulae hung suspended in space, their beauty both breathtaking and humbling. Yet amidst this infinite sea of stars, something new appeared. Ahead of them, a vessel materialized, a boat of sorts, floating serenely in the space between worlds. It was unlike anything Emma had ever imagined. Its body was sleek, made of a dark, smooth material that reflected the surrounding stars in ripples of light. The boat seemed to hum with life, its form alive in a way that made it feel both organic and metallic. It was as though it was crafted from the very essence of the universe itself. The boat was surrounded by a soft, glowing mist, as if it were suspended in the very breath of the stars. Its edges seemed to shimmer and shift, constantly morphing in response to the cosmic currents around it. The boat was still, yet it seemed to be waiting for them, as if it had always been there, anticipating their arrival. "This is the cosmic boat," Orion's voice echoed softly beside her, drawing her attention. "It is a vessel made not for traveling through space, but for navigating the currents of time and thought. It will take you where you need to go, Emma, and show you what you must understand." Emma's gaze flickered from the boat to Orion. "Navigating time and thought?" she repeated, trying to grasp the full meaning of his words. "But isn't it a boat?" Orion's eyes softened with a knowing smile. "It is both a boat and something more. You will see soon enough." He gestured toward the boat. "Come, step inside. The journey has begun." With a sense of awe and a tinge of nervousness, Emma stepped forward. As she approached the boat, she noticed the way the stars seemed to converge around it, as though the universe itself was guiding her. The air grew thick with energy, and the boat's surface rippled as she touched it, glowing with an almost otherworldly light. The moment her fingers made contact, the boat seemed to respond. The mist surrounding it parted, and the boat gently rose, gliding over the cosmic waves. It was as if the stars themselves had become the water, rippling and shifting beneath them as they moved. "Sit," Orion's voice was calm but firm, guiding her into a seat at the center of the boat. The surface was smooth and cool, but the moment she sat, she felt an overwhelming sense of connection, as though she were part of something much greater than herself. It was as if the boat were not merely carrying her through space, but was instead teaching her the language of the cosmos. Orion seated himself beside her, his gaze fixed on the vastness around them. The boat began to move, but there was no sound, no sensation of motion, only the gentle hum of energy in the air. The stars drifted past them like a river of light, their movements graceful and purposeful. It was as if they were not just floating through space, but moving within a cosmic tapestry, woven by the unseen hands of fate. The cosmic boat is an ancient vessel, Orion explained, his voice reverberating through the stillness. It was crafted long ago by the dreamers, those who could see the paths of the stars and navigate the currents of thought and time. It was designed to carry dreamers like you on their journeys through the universe. But it is more than just a vessel, it is a reflection of your own inner journey. Emma looked around, still trying to make sense of everything. A reflection of my inner journey? What do you mean? Orion's eyes glowed faintly, and he leaned in slightly, his voice softening. The cosmic boat moves not just through space, but through your mind, your soul. As we journey, the path we follow will reveal the truths you need to understand. Each star, each nebula, each cosmic event we pass will teach you something about yourself, about the dreamers, and about the universe you are meant to shape. As he spoke, Emma felt a gentle pull, as though the boat itself was guiding her towards something. The stars around them shifted, and she saw a new constellation forming in the sky, a star that seemed to pulse with a strange, unfamiliar energy. It wasn't a star like any she had ever seen. Its light was deeper, more complex, and somehow familiar. Orion noticed her gaze and followed it. "That," he said, his voice quiet, "is the convergence star. It marks the moment when the paths of the dreamers align with the will of the stars themselves. You will come to understand its significance in time." Emma felt a surge of curiosity. The convergence star? What does it mean for me? Orion's expression grew thoughtful. "It means that your journey has only just begun, Emma. The convergence star is the first step in your transformation. You will learn to listen to the stars and to dream the future with them. But the stars are not just light, they are filled with stories, memories, and destinies. Some of these paths lead to harmony, and some to chaos. It is up to you to choose which ones to follow." The boat continued to glide through the cosmic sea, but Emma could feel the weight of Orion's words settle on her. Her role as a dreamer wasn't just about understanding the universe, it was about shaping it. Every choice, every thought she had, would ripple outward, influencing the stars and the paths they followed. The stars around them began to swirl, gathering in a vortex that stretched out into the distance. A strange, eerie feeling gripped Emma's chest as she watched the cosmic currents form into a path that led into an unknown void, a place where the stars were dim and the light faded into darkness. "Where is that?" Emma asked, her voice a mixture of wonder and unease. "That," Orion said, his voice now tinged with caution, "is the realm of lost dreams. It is where the dreams of the past have faded, where paths once dreamed are now lost to time. It is a place of warning, Emma. A place where dreamers must tread carefully, for it holds the remnants of choices not made and destinies forgotten. Emma felt the boat gently veer away from the dark void, the stars pulling them toward the light once more. The convergent star, still bright, guided them forward. "You must remember," Orion continued, his voice firm but kind, "the stars are not just beacons, they are choices. And each choice you make will take you down a path. The cosmic boat will guide you, but you must choose wisely." As they drifted farther into the depths of space, Emma could feel the weight of her destiny settle upon her. She wasn't just a passenger in this vast universe, she was an active participant, a dreamer who had the power to shape the future. And as the boat sailed on, Emma knew that the journey ahead would not just be about discovering the universe. It would be about discovering herself. The cosmic boat sailed steadily through the cosmos, its surface humming with the rhythm of the stars as Emma and Orion journeyed deeper into the vast expanse. The convergent star flickered gently above them, a constant guide, its soft glow illuminating the path ahead. But as they moved farther into the heart of the universe, something began to shift in the atmosphere. A subtle tremor ran through the boat, like the earth shifting beneath one's feet, but there was no ground to feel, only the endless space that surrounded them. The stars, which had once twinkled in harmony, now began to pulse erratically. Their light wavered and shifted, as though responding to some unseen disturbance. The air grew thick with energy, crackling with an electric tension that Emma could feel in the pit of her stomach. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Orion's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the changes around them. His calm demeanor had shifted into one of focused alertness, and Emma could see the faintest trace of worry in his usually composed expression. "The stars are not the only things that move through the universe," he replied, his voice grave. "There are forces in the cosmos that seek to disrupt the harmony of the stars, forces that are as old as the universe itself. What we are experiencing now is the beginning of a galactic storm." Emma's heart skipped a beat. A storm in space? She had never imagined such a thing. "A storm?" she repeated, her mind racing. "What does it mean? Are we in danger?" Orion's eyes turned to the swirling constellations ahead. "It's not just a storm, Emma. It's a disruption, a ripple in the fabric of reality. The galactic storm is a powerful cosmic event that happens when the balance of the stars is threatened. It doesn't just affect the stars, it affects the flow of time, the very fabric of existence. If left unchecked, it could unravel the threads of the universe itself." Emma shivered at the weight of his words. She had come to understand the vastness of the universe, but this was something she hadn't expected. A force that could disrupt everything, from the smallest atom to the farthest galaxy. It felt almost too much to grasp. "How can we stop it?" she asked, her voice trembling. Orion paused, his gaze still fixed on the growing turbulence in the sky. "The storm is not a simple force that can be fought with strength. It is born of imbalance, of dreams and destinies left unresolved. It feeds on uncertainty, on fear, on chaos. But there is a way to restore harmony, by understanding its source, and by confronting the forces that have caused it. As he spoke, Emma noticed something in the distance, an area where the stars seemed to vanish into a swirling void, replaced by a dense, stormy mass of dark clouds. Lightning flickered across the expanse, illuminating the swirling chaos within. The storm was real, and it was coming closer. The boat's vibrations grew stronger, and the sky around them darkened as the wind-like currents of space seemed to howl in protest. "It's getting closer," Emma whispered, her breath catching in her throat. "Yes," Orion confirmed, his voice steady but full of determination. "And that is why we must act quickly. The storm is a symptom of something deeper, something more dangerous, an ancient force that has been awakening in the far reaches of the universe. It is a force that seeks to distort the very nature of dreams." Emma's mind whirled, trying to process his words. What kind of force? Orion turned to her, his expression hardening. "It is the force of the Dreambreakers." "Dreambreakers?" Emma repeated, her heart racing. She had heard of the dreamers, those who shaped the paths of the stars, but the Dreambreakers? She had never heard that name before. "They are the opposite of dreamers," Orion explained, his tone darker now. "Where dreamers bring harmony to the stars, the Dreambreakers seek to tear it apart. They are ancient beings, born from the first chaos of the universe, and they feed on the destruction of dreams. They seek to unravel the connections between the stars, to erase the paths and destinies that bind the universe together." The implications of his words hit Emma like a tidal wave. The Dreambreakers had been awakened, and now they were causing the galactic storm, a storm that threatened to destroy the very fabric of the universe itself. She understood now that her journey wasn't just about learning how to navigate the stars, it was about confronting this darkness, this force of destruction. The Dreambreakers. They want to destroy the stars? Emma asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Orion said quietly, his gaze turning toward the storm. "They seek to break the balance, to create a void where there is nothing but chaos. And if they succeed, they will destroy not only the stars, but the very concept of dreams and destiny. The universe will fall into darkness." The boat began to shake more violently now, as if the storm itself was reaching out to pull them into the void. Emma gripped the edges of her seat, her body tense with fear, but she refused to back down. "What can we do? How do we stop them?" she asked, her voice filled with determination. Orion stood up, his presence radiating a calm, unwavering resolve. "We must travel to the heart of the storm, to the place where the Dreambreakers have emerged. It is a place known as the Shadow Nebula, a region of space where the boundaries between light and darkness are thin, where the Dreambreakers dwell. It is there that we can confront them and restore balance." Emma swallowed hard, but she didn't hesitate. This was the reason she had come, to restore balance, to stop the forces that sought to destroy the stars. She knew she couldn't turn back now. Not when the universe itself was at stake. The boat surged forward, propelled by an unseen force, and the storm began to close in around them. The stars flickered like dying embers, and the sky ahead grew darker, filled with swirling clouds and flashes of lightning. The atmosphere crackled with the energy of the approaching storm, and Emma could feel her pulse quicken. As the boat cut through the cosmic winds, Emma turned to Orion, her heart full of questions, but also a deep sense of purpose. She was the dreamer, the one who would stand against the darkness. And she would not let the Dreambreakers destroy the stars. "Let's stop them," she said, her voice filled with quiet resolve. Orion nodded. "Together, we will restore balance. The storm will pass, but only if you remember who you are, Emma. You are the dreamer. The stars are counting on you." With those words, the boat surged forward into the heart of the galactic storm, the very fabric of the universe trembling with the power of the confrontation that was about to unfold. The storm raged all around them, an unrelenting fury of dark clouds and crackling energy. The cosmic boat glided effortlessly through the chaos, its glowing surface cutting through the tempest like a beacon of light in a sea of darkness. Emma's heart raced as the storm pressed in on them, the wind-like cosmic currents howling with a sound she could feel in her bones. Every flicker of lightning sent ripples of tension through the boat, but despite the overwhelming power of the storm, she could sense the calmness of Orion beside her. He had been quiet since they had entered the heart of the storm, his eyes fixed on the horizon, unshaken. The stars around them flickered erratically, as though they were struggling against the force of the Dreambreakers, whose presence now filled the air like a thick, oppressive weight. It was clear that the Dreambreakers were not merely a threat to the stars, they were a threat to everything, to the very concept of order and harmony in the universe. "We're getting closer," Emma said, her voice barely audible above the storm's roar. Orion nodded, his face set with determination. "Yes. But we must be careful. The Dreambreakers are powerful, and they will try to stop us before we reach the heart of the storm. We cannot let them cloud your vision, Emma. You must remain focused." Emma nodded, though doubt flickered in her chest. The storm had an eerie effect, distorting reality, twisting the stars into strange shapes and throwing her senses into disarray. She felt the weight of Orion's words pressing down on her, reminding her that this journey was far from over. It was just beginning. As the boat continued to cut through the storm, Emma saw something strange on the horizon, an absence in the chaos, a gap in the swirling mass of clouds. It was a silhouette, barely visible against the dark sky, but unmistakably a shape. She strained her eyes, trying to make sense of it. It looked like a moon, but it was different from any moon she had ever seen. "Orion," Emma said urgently, pointing ahead. "Is that?" Orion's gaze followed hers, and for the first time, a flicker of something, recognition, perhaps, appeared in his eyes. "Yes," he said quietly. "That is the hidden moon." The hidden moon. The words lingered in the air like an ancient secret, and Emma felt a deep sense of wonder wash over her. What was this moon? And why was it hidden from the rest of the universe? "We are close," Orion said, his voice suddenly heavy with meaning. "The hidden moon is a place of great significance. It is the nexus between worlds, a place where the fabric of reality is thinner, a place where the dreamers and the dreambreakers are both drawn. It is the key to understanding the storm and to stopping it." The boat moved steadily toward the hidden moon, its surface beginning to shimmer with an ethereal glow as they approached. The storm around them began to quiet, the chaotic winds slowing as they neared the moon's mysterious surface. Emma could see it more clearly now, a pale orb that hovered in the storm, its surface shrouded in a soft, glowing mist. It was not like any moon she had seen before. Its light was subtle, almost as if it were casting shadows, rather than radiating light. The hidden moon seemed to pulse with a rhythm, a heartbeat that resonated deep within her. She could feel it in her chest, like the faintest echo of a dream. It was both familiar and strange, as though it had always been there, just out of reach. "Why is it hidden?" Emma asked, her voice filled with awe and confusion. Orion's expression softened, his eyes clouded with something Emma couldn't quite place. The hidden moon was once a place of great power, a focal point of the dreamers' influence over the stars. It was here that the dreamers would come to seek guidance, to gain insight into the paths of the universe. But the Dreambreakers, in their desire for chaos and destruction, sought to erase it, to hide its power from those who would use it for good. The hidden moon is a place of both creation and destruction. It holds the memories of the stars, the ancient dreams that shaped the universe, but it also holds the shadows of the Dreambreakers' influence. The balance of the cosmos is woven here, in the heart of the hidden moon. The boat began to slow as they neared the surface of the moon. Emma could feel the pull of its energy, the way it seemed to draw her in. The stars around them had all but vanished, swallowed by the darkness that surrounded the moon. Only the pale glow of the hidden moon illuminated their path now. "This is where the Dreambreakers are most powerful," Orion continued, his voice low. "This is where the balance was first disrupted, where the storm began. If we are to stop them, we must first understand the true nature of the Dreambreakers' power, and the role you must play in restoring balance." As the boat drifted closer to the moon's surface, Emma saw what looked like an ancient temple, its structure faintly visible through the mist. It was a place of stone, worn and cracked with age, but its grandeur still remained. The temple seemed to pulse with energy, a silent call that reverberated through her very being. Orion stood and gestured for Emma to follow. "We must enter the temple. There, we will find the answers we seek. The Dreambreakers cannot destroy what is already here. The truth is hidden beneath the surface. The hidden moon holds the key to unlocking your potential as a dreamer." With a mixture of apprehension and determination, Emma stepped off the boat and onto the moon's surface. The ground beneath her feet was solid, but as she took her first steps toward the temple, she felt a strange sensation, a tingling in the air, as if the very ground she walked upon was alive with memories. The entrance to the temple loomed before them, its massive doors slowly opening as if anticipating their arrival. Inside, the walls were covered with ancient symbols, glowing faintly in the darkness. The air was thick with the weight of forgotten dreams, and Emma could feel the presence of something ancient, something powerful. This was no ordinary place, it was a nexus, a connection to the very heart of the universe. Orion led the way, his footsteps steady as they entered the temple. The symbols on the walls seemed to shift and move as they passed, revealing glimpses of long-forgotten histories, visions of the dreamers, of worlds long lost to time, and of battles fought in the name of balance. As they reached the center of the temple, a strange light began to emanate from the floor, illuminating the space around them. It was soft at first, but it grew brighter as Emma approached, filling the room with a warm, golden glow. The light seemed to pull her in, as if calling to her from deep within her soul. "This is the heart of the hidden moon," Orion said, his voice reverent. "It is here that the true nature of the dreamers and the Dreambreakers is revealed. You must understand what lies beneath the surface, Emma. The choice you make here will determine the fate of the stars." Emma felt a wave of understanding wash over her, as if the universe itself was whispering its secrets to her. This was the moment of truth, the moment when she would understand the full extent of her power and the choice that lay before her. And in that moment, she knew this was only the beginning of her journey. The storm, the Dreambreakers, the fate of the stars, they were all part of something much greater, something that only she could change. But to do that, she would have to unlock the secrets of the hidden moon, and confront the very forces that threatened to tear the universe apart. The golden light of the heart of the hidden moon pulsed around Emma, drawing her deeper into the mystery that lay at the temple's core. The walls seemed to close in as the ethereal glow enveloped her, filling her mind with fragmented visions, as if the very fabric of the universe was whispering forgotten stories into her soul. In that moment, the past, present, and future seemed to merge into one, a vast tapestry of stars, dreams, and destinies, all woven together in an intricate pattern. She could hear faint echoes, soft whispers like distant voices, calling from the depths of time. They spoke in a language she didn't fully understand, yet she felt their meaning as if they were embedded in the very core of her being. She closed her eyes, allowing the light to wash over her, surrendering herself to the experience. As she did, the images became clearer. She saw planets, countless planets, each one more beautiful and unique than the last. They floated in the cosmic expanse like silent sentinels, their surfaces glimmering with the faint light of distant stars. But as the images shifted, she saw something darker, something hidden beneath the glow of these once vibrant worlds. The planets began to fade, their surfaces cracked and decaying, their stars growing dim. Emma's heart tightened as the vision deepened. There were worlds she had never seen before, ancient and forgotten, their names lost to time. Planets that had once flourished with life, places of beauty and culture, where civilizations had thrived, now lay in ruin, their histories erased from the memory of the cosmos. The echoes of their existence reverberated across the stars, calling to her, reminding her of something she had not yet understood. "Orion," Emma whispered, her voice trembling as she turned to him. "What are these planets? Why are they gone?" Orion stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the visions that danced around them. His face was solemn, but there was a deep sadness in his gaze as he looked at the swirling images of lost worlds. "These are the forgotten planets," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of history. "Worlds that once held great promise, places where the dreamers once walked, shaping destinies and guiding the flow of time. But the Dreambreakers came for them, just as they came for the hidden moon. They erased their existence, not just from history, but from the fabric of the universe itself. The Dreambreakers have a power far greater than most can comprehend. They can remove entire planets, entire civilizations, from the timeline. They feed on the chaos they create when they tear apart the stars, leaving nothing but echoes, memories of what once was." Emma's heart ached as she watched the planets crumble, their beauty fading away like the last remnants of a dream. But why? Why would the Dreambreakers do this? "Because they cannot stand the harmony of the dreamers," Orion explained. "The Dreambreakers seek to sever the connections between the stars, to create a universe devoid of purpose or direction. They believe that by wiping out the dreams and destinies of others, they can make the universe their own, an empty void where nothing remains except chaos and destruction." Emma clenched her fists, feeling a surge of anger rising within her. "But how can we stop them? How can we undo what they've done to these worlds?" Orion turned to her, his expression both grave and reassuring. "The Dreambreakers have erased the memory of these planets from the stars themselves, but the heart of the hidden moon holds the key to restoring what was lost. To undo their destruction, we must reconnect the forgotten worlds to the fabric of the universe, to restore their place in the timeline, to bring their light back into the stars." "But how can we do that?" Emma asked, her mind reeling with the enormity of the task ahead. "The forgotten planets are not truly gone," Orion said, his voice calm but resolute. "Their essence remains, hidden in the echoes of time. They exist in a place between worlds, a realm where the Dreambreakers cannot reach. It is there that we must go, to the Echo Realm, where the remnants of these lost planets reside. To bring them back, we must enter this realm, understand the patterns of the past, and awaken the stars that once guided them." Emma nodded, though doubt still lingered in her mind. The task seemed impossible, the stakes higher than anything she had ever imagined. To restore entire worlds, to reverse the erasure of history itself, it felt like an insurmountable challenge. But she couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward these lost planets. They were part of the universe, part of the stars, and she knew deep down that their light still flickered, however faintly, in the echoes of the cosmos. She could feel their presence in her heart, a call to action, a desire to restore the balance that had been shattered. "We can do this," Emma said, her voice firm now, though she knew that the path ahead would be fraught with peril. "We have to." Orion placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression softening. I believe in you, Emma. You are the dreamer, the one who can restore the balance. But we are not alone in this. The stars will guide us, and together, we can bring back the light of the forgotten planets. With that, the visions of the forgotten planets began to fade, leaving behind a lingering sense of longing. Emma felt a surge of energy, something ancient, something primal, coursing through her as the golden light around them began to shift. The heart of the hidden moon pulsed with a deeper rhythm now, as though the very fabric of time was responding to their intentions. The temple seemed to respond to the change in the air, its walls glowing brighter, the echoes of the lost worlds growing louder, their call growing stronger. Emma took a deep breath, preparing herself for the next step of the journey. We must go to the Echo Realm, Orion said. It is there that the path to restoring the forgotten planets lies. And so, with determination burning in her chest, Emma followed Orion as they left the temple behind and stepped into the unknown. The storm had not yet passed, and the threat of the Dreambreakers still loomed large. But Emma knew one thing for certain: the universe was not beyond saving. The stars were still out there, waiting to be remembered. And with each step they took toward the Echo Realm, Emma could feel the power of the dreamers flowing through her, guiding her toward the destiny that awaited. The journey from the hidden moon to the Echo Realm was not one of simple travel. The fabric of space around them seemed to warp, the boat moving through an endless stretch of twilight, where the stars themselves appeared to blur and bend. Emma could feel the tension in the air, the pull of forces, both light and dark, converging around them. Every step she took into the unknown seemed to deepen the feeling that she was walking on the edge of something vast, something that could either heal the universe or break it entirely. As they moved forward, Emma looked around. The space they were traveling through felt alive. It was as though the stars themselves were conscious, watching them as they passed by, their shimmering lights flickering in and out of existence, as if unsure whether to guide them or to warn them away. "Where are we, Orion?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "This doesn't feel like the cosmos we know." "We're entering the liminal space between worlds," Orion explained, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of something ancient. "The Echo Realm is not a place found on any star chart. It is the space where lost worlds exist, where memories, dreams, and forgotten places linger after they've been erased. It is where the remnants of the past echo through the present, a place between the veils of time." Emma frowned, trying to make sense of his words. "So, this is the place where the Dreambreakers can't reach? Where the forgotten planets are hiding?" "Yes," Orion nodded. "The Dreambreakers cannot touch the Echo Realm directly. It is a space that exists outside the flow of time. But while they cannot destroy it, they can influence it. And that is why we must proceed carefully. The Echo Realm is a place where the lines between light and shadow are blurred. The Dreambreakers thrive on the darkness of forgotten memories. They can manipulate the echoes of the past and twist them into something dangerous." Emma shivered at the thought. She had seen the power of the Dreambreakers, the way they could warp reality itself. To be in a place so close to their influence, where shadows could take shape and memories could be corrupted, filled her with a deep sense of unease. The boat continued to glide through the endless twilight, and the distant echoes of the lost planets grew louder, their presence almost tangible now. It was as if the very air hummed with the whispers of worlds that had once been. Emma could hear voices now, faint and soft, like the calls of long-lost friends. At first, the voices were comforting, like old songs from her childhood. But as they continued, the tone began to shift. The voices grew sharper, more insistent, and with each passing moment, they seemed to call her name in a way that made her heart race. Emma. The whispering was getting louder now, a chorus of voices that echoed in the space around them. Remember. Remember who you are. Orion's voice broke through the cacophony. Don't listen to them, Emma. The voices of the echo realm can be deceptive. They will twist your thoughts, pull you toward the darkness. You must stay focused. Emma clutched the edges of her seat, her eyes narrowing as she tried to push the voices away. The words felt like a strange lure, pulling at something deep inside her. She couldn't explain it, but something about them felt familiar, too familiar. As if she had heard them before. As if they were tied to her own past. Orion, what's happening? She asked, her voice trembling despite her efforts to stay strong. The Dreambreakers are starting to weave their shadows into the echoes, Orion replied, his tone urgent. They know we're here. They will try to use your doubts, your fears, against you. The darkness they create in the echo realm is not like the darkness of the storm, it's more subtle. It feeds on memories, on what has been lost, and turns them into something that doesn't belong. As the boat moved deeper into the realm, the air around them seemed to darken, and the voices began to grow louder and more fragmented. Some of the voices spoke her name in soothing tones, while others sounded cold, distant, demanding, almost accusing. Emma. You're the one who can restore them. Emma, you'll never succeed. Why do you think you deserve to save them? The words echoed like 1,000 broken promises, each one scraping against her mind. Emma pressed her hands to her ears, trying to block out the voices, but they only grew louder, more intense. She could feel her thoughts beginning to spiral, the weight of the voices pressing down on her chest. Suddenly, a deep, resonant voice cut through the noise, a voice that seemed to come from within her very soul. Remember who you are, Emma. You are the dreamer. The stars are your birthright, and the balance of the universe is in your hands. The voice was Orion's. It wasn't just his words, it was the truth that lay behind them, a truth that seemed to awaken something deep within her. The pull of the voices weakened, their influence slowly diminishing as she focused on his words. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Yes, she whispered, her voice full of conviction. I am the dreamer. The stars are mine to protect. She opened her eyes and looked around. The shadows in the echo realm still loomed, dark and swirling, but they no longer seemed to control her. Instead, they felt more like a distant threat, something she could face, something she could challenge. The voices were no longer drowning her in doubt. She had heard their lies, and she was no longer afraid of them. Orion nodded, a proud smile flickering on his face. "Well done, Emma. You have begun to understand the power within you. The Dreambreakers can only reach you through fear and confusion. You must not let them cloud your vision." Emma's resolve grew stronger as she looked ahead. The boat had begun to move faster, its momentum shifting as it cut through the shadows and light of the echo realm. There, ahead of them, was a faint glow, a light that shimmered like the stars themselves. It was the first sign of something real, something tangible in this realm of half-forgotten memories. "That's it," Emma said, her voice filled with awe. "That's the way forward." Orion's expression turned serious. "Yes, but we're not out of danger yet. The Dreambreakers are not easily defeated, and their shadows are everywhere. We must be careful. Once we reach the center of the echo realm, we'll find the source of their power. That's where we must act, to restore the forgotten worlds and stop the storm." As they neared the glow, the shadows began to shift around them. Shapes began to form in the darkness, shifting silhouettes, blurred figures that flickered in and out of existence. Emma could feel their presence, their cold eyes watching her, waiting for her to falter. But she wouldn't. She couldn't. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady, her heart filled with the certainty of her purpose. "Let's restore the stars." The boat surged forward, and Emma, guided by Orion's steady hand and the light of her own resolve, entered the heart of the echo realm, where starlight and shadows would collide in the final battle for the future of the universe. The boat surged forward, its ethereal form slicing through the swirling mists of the echo realm. The shadows around them writhed like dark serpents, ever watchful, as if the Dreambreakers themselves were closing in. Emma could feel their presence, the cold tendrils of their power attempting to sink into her mind, tugging at her resolve, but she held firm. Orion stood beside her, his steady presence like an anchor in the storm. Ahead, the faint glow that had been their guiding light grew brighter, its warmth cutting through the pervasive darkness. It was not a star, nor a planet, but something else, something that existed beyond the conventional understanding of the universe. A gate. An entrance. The Nebula Gate. Emma's breath caught in her throat as they drew closer. The gate shimmered like a living nebula, swirling with cosmic dust and starlight. It appeared to pulse with an otherworldly rhythm, its colors shifting in hues that seemed to defy description. Blues, purples, greens, and golds spiraled together, creating a dazzling, kaleidoscopic effect. It was like gazing into the heart of the universe itself, vast, beautiful, and infinitely complex. "Is this the gateway to the center of the echo realm?" Emma asked, her voice tinged with awe. "Yes," Orion replied, his gaze focused on the swirling vortex. "The nebula gate is the final barrier between us and the source of the Dreambreakers' power. Beyond this gate lies the core of the Echo Realm, where the very fabric of forgotten worlds is woven together. It is here that we must confront the Dreambreakers and restore the balance." Emma could feel the weight of his words. This was it, the point of no return. On the other side of this gate lay the answers she had been searching for, and the final confrontation with the forces that had been erasing entire worlds. She could almost taste the tension in the air, as if the very cosmos were holding its breath, waiting for them to make their move. "How do we pass through?" she asked, turning to Orion, who had become more focused, his expression resolute. "The nebula gate does not open like any ordinary door," Orion explained. "It is a manifestation of the Dreambreakers' power, a barrier that only those who are pure of heart and strong of will can cross. It will test us, Emma. It will challenge our deepest fears, our darkest doubts. We must be ready." Emma's pulse quickened as she stared at the shimmering gate. "What kind of test?" she asked, feeling a knot form in her stomach. The road ahead was already fraught with danger, and the idea of being tested again made her uneasy. "The nebula gate tests the soul," Orion said quietly. "It reflects the darkness within us, the parts of ourselves we wish to forget or deny. To pass through, we must face these shadows and embrace them. Only then can we move forward." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. Her shadows, her fears, were something she had been running from for a long time. The memory of her family, her lost home, the uncertainty of her purpose, it all rose within her in that moment. The gate would show her these parts of herself, laid bare for her to confront. She wasn't sure she was ready for that. But she had no choice. As the boat drew closer, the swirling colors of the nebula gate began to warp and twist, the space around them bending in strange and surreal ways. The air was thick with an energy that felt both alien and familiar, like an electric charge hanging in the atmosphere. Emma could feel it, a weight in her chest, a suffocating pull towards something deeper, something hidden. "Emma," Orion's voice was low and steady, cutting through the rising tension. "The test begins now. Don't let it consume you. Whatever comes, stay focused. Trust in your strength. You are the dreamer." With his words, a new layer of power seemed to settle within Emma, but she couldn't ignore the tightening fear in her heart. She closed her eyes, taking a slow, steadying breath. She had to be strong. She had to face whatever awaited her on the other side of this gate. As the boat reached the edge of the nebula gate, the swirling colors erupted, flooding the air with a brilliant light. The boat shimmered, and Emma felt herself pulled forward, her body weightless as they passed through the shimmering barrier. For a moment, everything was silent. The stars were gone. The echoes of the forgotten planets had disappeared. It felt as though they were suspended in the void, between worlds, between time. And then the voices began. Emma, a voice whispered, soft and mournful, like a forgotten memory. Why did you leave us? Emma's eyes snapped open, and she found herself standing alone in a vast, dark expanse. She was no longer in the boat. The world around her was empty, an endless, starless void stretching out in all directions. But there, in the distance, a figure stood. It was her mother. Mom? Emma's voice trembled as she took a step forward. The figure did not move, only stood, watching her with eyes full of sorrow. Is it really you? The figure nodded slowly, its face blurred, shifting as though made of mist. You left us, Emma. You abandoned us to seek out the stars. You were always searching for something more, but now look at what you've lost. Emma's heart squeezed with a sharp pang. The words felt like a knife to her chest, cutting through the walls she had built to protect herself from the grief of losing her family. The guilt flooded her, overwhelming her thoughts. She had left them behind. She had chosen this journey over everything she had known, and now they were gone. Don't listen to it, Orion's voice echoed from somewhere in the darkness, but it was faint, as if he were distant. This is a shadow, a reflection of your fear. The gate will show you the things you most regret, the things you cannot change. But they are not real. You must face them and let them go. Emma's chest tightened as the figure of her mother reached out, as if trying to pull her into the darkness. She could almost feel the warmth of her arms, hear the voice calling her back to a time she could never return to. But then something within her shifted. She remembered what Orion had said. This was not real. This was a manifestation of the shadows within her, the guilt, the fear of losing everything. And it had no power over her unless she allowed it. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and with a steadying resolve, she stepped away from the figure. The darkness swirled around her, the pain and the regret, but she didn't let it control her. She had a purpose. She had a destiny. And with that thought, the shadow of her mother faded, dissolving into the void. The light of the nebula gate began to return, shimmering brighter, warmer. You are ready, Orion's voice sounded again, now closer, clearer. You have passed the first test. The nebula gate is behind you. The true challenge lies ahead. Emma exhaled slowly, her hands shaking, but her heart was stronger now. The darkness had shown her the depths of her fear, but she had faced it and conquered it. She was no longer running from her shadows. As the stars returned, their light bathing the landscape around her, she stepped forward, ready to continue the journey. The nebula gate had been the first trial. But the true test had only just begun. The space beyond the nebula gate was unlike anything Emma had ever imagined. It wasn't the uncharted void she had expected, but a world of contradictions. Brilliant stars twinkled in the distance, but they cast no light. Shadows danced in strange patterns, yet they seemed to have no substance. The fabric of the universe felt thinner here, as though the laws of physics had begun to unravel. It was a place suspended between reality and dream, a realm that existed outside of all known dimensions, a place where time and space were malleable, and the very concept of existence was in flux. Emma stood at the threshold of this new realm, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the echoes of the nebula gate behind her, the shimmering passageway that had allowed her to cross into this strange and forgotten space. Orion stood by her side, his gaze scanning the unfamiliar landscape. "This is the heart of the Echo Realm," he said quietly, his voice filled with a reverence Emma hadn't heard before. "It is here that the Dreambreakers draw their power. The fabric of the universe is thin, and they can weave their darkness through the smallest rift." "Is this where we'll find the Dreambreakers?" Emma asked, feeling the weight of his words press down on her. "Yes, but it's not just them," Orion replied, turning his eyes toward the distance, where a swirling mass of blackness loomed, like a massive storm of invisible forces. "This is also where the secrets of dark matter lie, secrets that the Dreambreakers have been hiding. They use it to fuel their corruption, to erase memories and tear apart worlds. But we can't just confront them. To defeat them, we need to understand the true nature of this place." Emma followed his gaze, her eyes narrowing as she stared at the swirling mass. It wasn't like any storm she had seen before. It was as though the storm itself was made of the very essence of the universe, dark, empty, and full of potential. The thought of it filled her with an uneasy sense of awe. Dark matter. "It's not just the stuff that fills the void, is it?" she asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and fear. "It's more than that. It's alive." Orion nodded. "Yes. In a sense, it is. Dark matter is not empty. It is the unseen force that binds the universe together, the invisible thread that connects all things. But when twisted by the Dreambreakers, it becomes something much darker. It becomes a tool for destruction, capable of altering reality itself." Emma's mind raced as she tried to process his words. The very fabric of the universe could be manipulated, used to erase entire planets, to rewrite memories, to create shadows that devoured everything in their path. The Dreambreakers had tapped into that power, and now it was up to her to stop them. "How do we stop it?" Emma asked, her voice strained as she looked back at the dark mass. "How do we fight something so powerful?" "We can't fight it directly," Orion replied, his voice calm but serious. "But we can understand it. Dark matter feeds on the emotions and memories of living beings. It thrives on fear, regret, and the shadows of the past. The Dreambreakers use it to create those shadows, to twist reality and erase what they don't want remembered. But if we can find the heart of the dark matter, the source of its power, we can neutralize it. We can break its hold." Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. The weight of his words settled over her, the full gravity of their mission finally sinking in. The heart of the dark matter, the very source of the Dreambreakers' power, was somewhere in this vast, uncharted expanse. And she was the one who had to find it. "We need to go toward the center," she said, her voice filled with determination. "That's where we'll find the source, right?" Orion nodded. "Exactly. But we must be careful. The closer we get to the core of the dark matter, the more the Dreambreakers' influence will grow. We'll face illusions, fears, and memories twisted into monstrous shapes. The darkness will try to devour us, both physically and mentally." As if on cue, the world around them began to shift. The shadows that had been lingering at the edges of their vision began to pulse, growing in size and strength. The swirling mass of dark matter in the distance seemed to come alive, shifting and writhing like a vast, unseen entity. Emma's heart quickened as the air grew colder, the space around them becoming thick with an oppressive energy. "Stay focused," Orion said, his voice steady as the darkness closed in. "We must keep moving forward. The Dreambreakers will try to stop us, but we can't let them." The boat began to move once again, slowly but steadily. Emma gripped the sides, her pulse racing as she felt the shadows pressing in on all sides. She could hear the whispers again, the voices of forgotten planets, of lost memories, calling out to her. But this time, the voices were different. They were not comforting. They were not full of warmth or nostalgia. They were full of pain, regret, and sorrow. "Emma, you will never escape. Why fight it? Join us. Let go of the past." The words twisted around her like a storm, pushing her to question everything she had known, everything she had fought for. For a moment, the darkness seemed to reach inside her mind, pulling at her thoughts, trying to unravel her resolve. She could see her mother's face again, her family, her home, the life she had once known. The longing, the guilt, the ache of loss all rushed to the surface, threatening to consume her. But she couldn't let it. She couldn't let the shadows twist her mind. "Remember who you are," Orion's voice broke through the storm of whispers. "You are the dreamer. The stars are your birthright. The darkness cannot take that away from you." Emma's breath steadied as she focused on his words. The stars were her birthright. She had a purpose. She was not here to be consumed by the darkness, but to bring light. To restore the forgotten worlds, to break the Dreambreakers' grip on the universe. The shadows flared around her, growing larger, more menacing. But Emma stood firm. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reached deep inside herself. She called on the power of the stars, the light of the universe, the strength that had always been inside her. Slowly, the darkness began to recede. The whispers faded into silence, the weight of the shadows lifting from her shoulders. When she opened her eyes, the dark storm had lessened. The space around them felt less oppressive. Orion nodded approvingly. "Well done. You're learning to control it. But we're not through yet." Ahead of them, the center of the dark matter mass loomed closer, the storm swirling more violently as they approached. But Emma felt a new sense of clarity, a new strength within herself. She could feel the source of the Dreambreakers' power, its heart, pulsing in the distance, and she knew she was getting closer. The final test was approaching. But she was ready. The boat surged forward, its form cutting through the shifting sea of dark matter as the strange, swirling energy seemed to part before them. Each passing moment felt heavier, as if the very space around them was tightening like a coil. The storm at the heart of the dark matter mass swirled with increasing intensity, drawing them closer to its core. Emma could feel the pulse of it now, resonating in her chest, a rhythm that was both alien and familiar, like the beating of a forgotten heart. Orion's steady presence at her side grounded her. They were nearing the center of it all, the heart of the Dreambreakers' power. The whispers had grown fainter, but the tension in the air was suffocating. There was something beyond this storm, something that pulsed with an ancient, unfathomable energy. Emma knew that when they reached the core, there would be no turning back. "Stay close," Orion said, his voice low. "We are approaching the threshold. The Dreambreakers will try to stop us, but they won't succeed if we stay focused." Emma nodded, her hands clenched tightly on the sides of the boat. She had learned to push the darkness away, to resist the weight of the shadows. But as they drew closer to the center of the storm, she felt a new presence, a subtle, almost imperceptible pull. It wasn't fear, but something else. A calling. As if the universe itself was reaching out to her. "Orion, what is that?" she asked, her voice tinged with both wonder and concern. Orion's gaze flickered to the swirling storm ahead, his eyes narrowing. "It's the Navigator's key," he said quietly. "The heart of the Dreambreakers' power is not a force that can simply be destroyed. It is bound by the key, the catalyst that keeps it in place. To stop them, we must find the Navigator's key and unlock it. Only then can we sever the Dreambreakers' control over the dark matter." "The Navigator's key?" Emma echoed, confused. "What is it? How do we find it?" "It is a relic, an ancient artifact," Orion explained, his expression solemn. "The Dreambreakers have hidden it deep within the heart of this storm. It is said to be a key that can navigate the fabric of the universe itself. With it, you can unlock the pathways between worlds, control the flow of time, and even shape the very fabric of reality. But it is not easy to obtain. The storm itself is a guardian of sorts, a reflection of the key's power. It will test us in ways we cannot yet understand." Emma felt the weight of his words settle heavily on her shoulders. This was no longer just a fight to stop the Dreambreakers, it was a race against time to find an artifact that could reshape the fabric of existence itself. How do we get to it? Emma asked, feeling the pressure of the storm closing in. We need to trust in the key's guidance, Orion replied. It will lead us, but only if we are worthy. We must let go of our doubts, our fears. Only then can we find the way. The boat's progress slowed as they approached the center of the storm. The swirling mass of dark matter had begun to pulse with rhythmic intensity, and the very air felt thick with an invisible pressure. Emma's heart raced. The whispers had ceased, replaced by a heavy silence that felt like the calm before the storm. Suddenly, a new voice emerged, this one clear and commanding. You seek the key, dreamer? The voice seemed to come from all directions at once, echoing through the void. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she looked around, but there was no figure, no shape. Only darkness. Who are you? Emma called out, her voice steady despite the surge of unease that rose within her. I am the guardian, the voice replied, the words reverberating like thunder. I have watched over the Navigator's key for eons, ensuring that only those worthy may pass. You seek to end the Dreambreakers' reign, but the cost is great. What are you willing to sacrifice? Emma's mind raced as the weight of the Guardian's words sank in. Sacrifice. That word echoed in her thoughts, the price of her mission suddenly more real than ever before. She had already lost so much, her family, her home, her old life. But this was different. What was the cost of saving the universe? Could she truly face the consequences of unlocking the power of the Navigator's key? We are ready, Orion said, his voice steady as always, cutting through Emma's swirling thoughts. We have come this far. We will face whatever trials lie ahead. The Guardian's voice was silent for a moment, as though considering Orion's words. Then, with a deep, resonant sigh, the voice spoke again. Very well. The key lies before you, but to claim it, you must first prove that you understand its true purpose. It is not a tool for power, nor a weapon of destruction. The key is a bridge. It connects worlds, memories, and lives. It is not yours to control, but to unlock. Are you willing to let go of your desires, your need for control, and allow the key to guide you? Emma's chest tightened as the full weight of the Guardian's question settled over her. The key wasn't a weapon. It wasn't something to be wielded. It was a bridge, a conduit, a tool to unlock the truth of the universe, not to control it. She looked at Orion, and for the first time, she understood. The power to stop the Dreambreakers, to restore the lost worlds, wasn't about domination. It wasn't about bending the universe to her will. It was about restoring balance, about letting the universe guide her, about finding peace in the chaos. I'm ready, Emma said, her voice filled with resolve. I understand. The key is not for me to control. It is a bridge, and I am only its guide. The storm around them seemed to shift at her words, the darkness parting in a slow, deliberate movement. In the center of the swirling mass of dark matter, a single point of light appeared, faint at first, but growing brighter with each passing second. It was the key. The boat moved toward it, the mass of dark matter parting like a veil. As they drew closer, Emma could see it more clearly, a pulsating, crystalline structure, radiating a soft, golden glow. It wasn't a physical object, but a form of energy, a presence, a gateway. The Navigator's key was a living thing, a force that resonated with the universe itself. Orion's gaze softened as they neared the key. "It is time," he said, his voice barely a whisper. As Emma reached out, she felt a sudden surge of energy, a warmth that filled her entire being. The key was alive, and it recognized her. It was not a choice, but a connection, a bond formed through her understanding, through her willingness to let go. The storm around them dissipated entirely, leaving them in a vast, serene void, the pulsating light of the key casting a soft, golden hue across the expanse. Emma closed her eyes, breathing deeply as the power of the key flowed through her, connecting her with the very heart of the universe. "Now we have the power to restore what has been lost," Orion said, his voice filled with quiet awe. The Navigator's key was no longer just a relic. It was a part of her now, a guide to the worlds they would save. The journey ahead was still perilous, but with the key in their grasp, Emma knew they had the strength to overcome whatever challenges awaited them. The balance was shifting, and the Dreambreakers' reign was coming to an end. The light from the Navigator's key bathed the void in a soft, golden glow, illuminating the vast emptiness around them. Emma felt a deep, resonant hum within her chest, the key now fully integrated with her being. It was as though she could sense the heartbeat of the universe, the pulse of all worlds, all lives. The whispers of forgotten planets had faded, replaced by a profound silence, one that felt like the calm after a storm, but with an unsettling depth. The weight of what had just happened began to settle in her mind. Orion stood beside her, his gaze distant but calm. He had always been the rock, the steady force that had guided her through so much. But even he seemed quieter now, as if the enormity of their victory, and what it meant, was just beginning to dawn on him. The Dreambreakers were still out there. The Navigator's key had granted them a way to stop them, but it was clear now that the battle was not over. The key was powerful, yes, but it was not a simple tool to wield. It was a conduit, a bridge, and now that Emma held it, she understood its true nature. "The dreamer's paradox," Orion said, his voice almost to himself, his eyes watching the key with a mixture of awe and concern. "You have it now, Emma. You're the dreamer, the one who can bend the universe's fabric. But with that power comes a great responsibility. And a great risk." Emma blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "The key is the key to stopping the Dreambreakers. We can end their reign now." "Yes," Orion replied, turning to her. But the power of the key is not meant to be controlled by one person. It's a paradox. The dreamer who holds the key is both the savior and the destroyer. The key is not just a tool to restore worlds, it is the very thing that could tear them apart. Emma's stomach churned. What do you mean? I thought it was our way to stop the Dreambreakers. To bring balance back. Orion nodded slowly, his face filled with a deep sadness. It is. But there's something the Dreambreakers know that you don't. They've been searching for the key for centuries, not just to control it, but to understand its nature. The Dreambreakers are bound to the fabric of the universe, just like you. But they've learned to use their power for destruction, for erasure. The paradox of the dreamer is that the very power you wield, the power to create and restore, is also the power to destroy and forget. Emma felt a shiver of dread ripple through her. So, what happens if I use the key? What happens if you use the key to destroy the Dreambreakers, to undo their damage, Orion interrupted, you risk undoing everything. The balance you seek to restore might be shattered. The universe could collapse in on itself, creating a new wave of destruction. The key doesn't just heal, it also erases. It doesn't differentiate between what is good and what is bad. It simply unmakes. The words hit Emma like a physical blow. The very power they had been hoping to wield, the power that could save the universe, could just as easily unmake it. The dreamer's paradox was a trap. The power to create worlds and save lives also carried the potential to destroy everything. It was a choice she had never anticipated, one that challenged everything she thought she understood about right and wrong, about what was worth fighting for. Orion continued, his voice tinged with sorrow. The Dreambreakers know this. They know that the more you use the key, the more you risk unraveling everything. That's why they've hidden it from you for so long. They want to provoke you into using it, until it's too late to stop the chain reaction. Emma felt the weight of his words pressing down on her chest. The storm of dark matter that had surrounded them seemed to grow heavier, more oppressive. The very fabric of reality felt fragile now, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. So, what do we do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. How can we stop them without destroying everything? Orion met her gaze, his eyes filled with understanding. That's the question we must answer. The key can't be wielded carelessly. We must find a way to use it that doesn't unravel the universe. To defeat the Dreambreakers, we need to understand their true nature, not just their power, but their purpose. They are not just destroyers. They are a reflection of the balance that is out of sync. They are born of the very chaos that the universe has been fighting to contain. Emma's mind raced as she processed his words. The Dreambreakers were not mere villains. They were not just out to conquer or destroy, they were a part of the universe's cycle, a necessary counterbalance to the forces of creation. Their existence was tied to the universe's need for chaos, for entropy. Without them, the universe would become stagnant, unchanging, lifeless. She closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the key within her, the weight of it pressing into her very soul. It wasn't just about saving the universe anymore. It was about understanding it, understanding the delicate balance that kept it alive. Then we need to find a way to bring balance without destroying it, Emma said, opening her eyes, her voice filled with a new resolve. We can't let the Dreambreakers erase everything, but we can't just undo everything they've done either. We need to restore balance without tipping the scales too far in the other direction. Orion smiled faintly, his expression proud. Exactly. But it's not going to be easy. The Dreambreakers won't go down without a fight. And you'll need to trust in the key, not as a weapon, but as a guide. The key isn't just about destruction. It's about knowing when to create, and when to let go. You'll need to understand its true power before you can use it effectively. Emma nodded, taking a deep breath. She felt the weight of the key in her chest, as though it were now a part of her, a living, breathing entity, connected to the very fabric of the universe itself. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, with choices that could change everything. But she also knew that she couldn't turn back now. The universe was counting on her. The dreamers, the Dreambreakers, and the balance between them, she said quietly, her voice firm. I'm ready to face the paradox. I'm ready to find the way forward. Orion nodded, his eyes steady and filled with quiet resolve. Then let's begin. The first step is to understand the Dreambreakers, not just as enemies, but as part of the universe's design. And then we'll find a way to restore balance. Together. And with that, they set their course toward the heart of the Dreambreakers' domain, where the true battle for the future of the universe would unfold. The boat drifted through the endless sea of stars, its golden light still pulsating from the Navigator's key, casting long shadows that danced on the surface of the void. The journey ahead felt like a vast, uncharted ocean, and Emma could feel the weight of the uncertainty pressing on her chest. The paradox of the dreamer had left her mind reeling. How could she hope to balance the delicate scales of the universe without losing herself in the process? Beside her, Orion was deep in thought, his eyes scanning the infinite expanse that stretched out before them. He seemed distant, his brow furrowed as though the same questions plagued him. Emma knew that they had come to a crossroads. Their quest to stop the Dreambreakers and restore balance to the universe had led them here, into the heart of the void, where the very fabric of reality seemed thin, like it could be torn apart with the slightest wrong move. Emma shivered, wrapping her arms tightly around herself. It wasn't the cold that made her feel this way, but something far more unsettling, the quiet. The quiet of the void, of endless nothingness, where time seemed to lose its meaning and space bent in strange, unpredictable ways. Orion's voice broke the silence, low and steady. The Dreambreakers have taken refuge here, in the void. It's a place outside of time, outside of the natural order. No one should be able to exist here for long. Emma turned to face him. So, this is where we'll find them? In the void? He nodded. Yes, this is their sanctuary. It's not just a place of nothingness, though. It's a place of transformation. The Dreambreakers have been hiding here for ages, bending the void to their will. They've turned it into their playground, their means of manipulating reality. As the boat moved forward, the edges of the void began to shimmer and warp, like the atmosphere of a distant planet caught in a violent storm. The darkness grew more intense, and the stars that had once appeared so clear and beautiful now seemed distant, their light flickering as if on the verge of going out. Emma's heartbeat quickened. What's happening? Why is the void changing like this? Orion's voice dropped to a whisper. The Dreambreakers are aware of our presence now. They can feel the key's power. This place is alive, and it's reacting to us. The boat shuddered, and the space around them seemed to ripple as if reality itself was being stretched and torn. Emma gripped the edge of the boat, her knuckles turning white. The universe around them twisted and distorted, forming strange shapes and shadows that seemed to pull at her mind. Is this part of their power? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Yes, Orion answered. The Dreambreakers control the void itself. They've made it their domain, bending it to their will. This isn't just a place of nothingness. It's a realm of possibility, of potential. They manipulate it to create what they want: dreams, nightmares, alternate realities. Emma's mind spun. But how do we fight something like that? If they control the void, how can we stop them? Orion gave her a grim look. We don't fight them directly. We have to find a way to unmake their hold over the void. The key may have brought us this far, but the real test lies in breaking the Dreambreakers' connection to this place. The void is their domain, but it's also their prison. They're trapped in it, just as much as we are. A heavy silence fell between them, the boat rocking gently as it floated deeper into the void. Emma could feel the weight of Orion's words. They weren't just battling the Dreambreakers anymore. They were battling a force that transcended the physical world, something that could warp reality itself. The boat suddenly lurched forward, and Emma was thrown off balance. Her heart raced as the darkness around them thickened, closing in like a blanket. The stars that had been their guide were now swallowed by the blackness, leaving them in an endless void where time seemed irrelevant. Stay calm, Orion's voice cut through the chaos. This is what the Dreambreakers want, to disorient us, to make us lose our sense of direction. The void is a reflection of the mind. If we let it control us, we will be lost forever. Emma swallowed hard, her breath coming in shallow bursts. She focused on Orion's voice, grounding herself in the steadiness of his presence. The key pulsed within her, a steady, rhythmic beat that connected her to the universe, to to the heart of reality itself. "How do we fight it?" she asked, her voice trembling but determined. Orion looked up at the swirling darkness around them, his eyes narrowed. "We need to focus. The void may be endless, but it's not invincible. It feeds off confusion, fear, and doubt. If we allow ourselves to be lost in it, we give the Dreambreakers more power. We must remind ourselves that the void is a reflection. The real battle isn't against this place, but against our own minds." As he spoke, Emma could feel something stirring inside her, a strange sensation that began to push against the suffocating pressure of the void. It was as if the key was guiding her, pulling her towards something. She closed her eyes, trying to quiet her mind, to listen to that inner voice. Suddenly, the void around them shifted again, and the boat jerked forward as if it were being pulled by an unseen force. Emma's eyes snapped open, and she gasped. In the distance, she saw a faint light, a soft, golden glow that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the beat of her heart. The key was responding to it. Orion turned toward her, his eyes widening in realization. That light, it's the Dreambreakers' anchor. They've created a nexus, a focal point where all their power converges. If we can reach it, we can break their hold over the void. Emma nodded, her fear turning into resolve. The void was a place of uncertainty, of endless possibility, but it was also a place where they could challenge the Dreambreakers on their own terms. The key to unlocking this nightmare lay ahead, and they had to reach it before the darkness consumed them entirely. "Let's go," Emma said, gripping the edge of the boat with renewed strength. "We're not lost. Not yet." With that, the boat surged forward, cutting through the shifting darkness as they steered toward the distant light, the heart of the Dreambreakers' power. The universe was waiting for them to take control. The boat surged through the void, drawn toward the flickering light that pulsed in the distance like a fragile star. The darkness around them twisted and churned, its strange, formless depths trying to devour their hope, to pull them back into its suffocating embrace. But Emma refused to let the shadows overwhelm her. She clutched the Navigator's key tightly, feeling its steady rhythm beneath her palm, a heartbeat that was both her own and something much greater. Orion, standing beside her, scanned the empty expanse with an expression of quiet determination. His eyes were dark, but there was a flicker of something else, an unspoken understanding. He knew the significance of this moment. They were no longer merely pursuing the Dreambreakers. They were walking the razor-thin line between creation and destruction, between the infinite possibilities of the void and the fragile reality of the worlds they sought to save. For a long while, there was nothing but the sound of the boat cutting through the silence, a silence that stretched on for eternity, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The stars had disappeared, swallowed whole by the oppressive dark. No whispers of forgotten worlds, no echoes of distant galaxies. Only the hum of the key and the weight of the void around them. "Emma," Orion's voice broke the stillness, soft but heavy with meaning. Do you feel that? She looked up at him, her senses stretched to their limits, trying to feel what he was talking about. The void had swallowed everything, sight, sound, and thought. But there was something else now, something almost imperceptible, like the edge of a memory she couldn't quite reach. The silence, Emma said, her voice almost a whisper. It's different. It's deeper now. As if something is waiting. Orion nodded, his gaze distant. It's the silence between stars. The place where nothing exists, no light, no time, no movement. But also where everything begins. The Dreambreakers have created this void to erase meaning, to erase existence itself. If we don't reach the light soon, we risk becoming lost in it forever. The silence will claim us, just as it claimed everything else. The boat continued its journey, but Emma could feel the weight of his words hanging in the air, thickening the space around them. It wasn't just the vastness of the void that threatened them. It was the silence, the absence of all things. The Dreambreakers had twisted it into a weapon, and the longer they stayed within its grasp, the harder it would be to remember what they were fighting for. How do we fight it? Emma asked, her voice barely audible. How do we fight a silence that has consumed everything? Orion turned toward her, his eyes focused now, sharp with the understanding that only comes from years of experience. We don't fight the silence with force, Emma. We fight it with understanding. The void is not just emptiness, it's potential. The silence between stars is not the absence of sound, but the space where creation begins. The Dreambreakers want to erase that potential, to trap everything in an endless, oppressive stillness. Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. She had always thought of silence as something passive, something empty. But now she understood, this was not just quiet, it was the absence of all things. It was the death of possibility. And the Dreambreakers, in their relentless quest for power, had used it to cage the universe, to trap everything in their web of destruction. The key pulsed more strongly in her hand, and a thought, no, a memory, surfaced. It was something she had heard long ago, in the forgotten corners of her dreams. The void is the beginning and the end. It is both the death of stars and the birth of galaxies. She looked at Orion, the weight of the realization settling in her chest. The Dreambreakers, they're trying to make the void their own. But the key, it's the bridge between nothingness and everything. We can use it to restore the balance, to pull the universe back from the brink. Orion smiled faintly, the lines of tension around his face softening for the first time in what felt like forever. Exactly. But we have to remember, this isn't just a fight against the Dreambreakers. It's a fight for the potential of the universe itself. The key isn't just a weapon. It's a reminder of what can be, of what will be, if we don't lose ourselves in the silence. They continued forward, the distant light now growing brighter. It was no longer just a faint glow in the distance, it had become a beacon, drawing them in with the promise of hope, of life, of possibility. It was the Dreambreakers' nexus, the heart of their power. And Emma knew that they could not afford to be overwhelmed by the silence any longer. They had to reach it. As the boat moved faster, the void seemed to fight back. Dark tendrils of shadow lashed out, threatening to pull them off course. But the light from the key flared, cutting through the darkness with a golden brilliance. Each pulse of the key seemed to push the shadows back, creating ripples in the fabric of the void. "Hold on," Orion said, his voice more urgent now. "The void doesn't want us to reach the heart. But we have to push through. We can't let it pull us back." Emma's grip tightened around the key. She could feel its power now, coursing through her veins, filling her with strength and clarity. The key wasn't just a tool. It was a living force, a reminder that even in the deepest silence, there is the potential for creation. And they were going to create something new. "Let's finish this," Emma said, her voice filled with resolve. They reached the heart of the void, the source of the Dreambreakers' power. It was a swirling vortex of light and shadow, a maelstrom of endless possibilities, both terrifying and beautiful. The key's light flared, responding to the vortex, and Emma could feel it in every fiber of her being, the energy, the potential, the raw force of the universe itself. The silence between stars was no longer oppressive. It was alive with possibility. Now, it was time to act. The boat hovered on the edge of the vortex, suspended in a strange, silent dance between light and shadow. The darkness of the void no longer pressed in on them. Instead, it seemed to pulse and swirl around them, as if it were alive, watching, waiting. At the center of the vortex was a brilliant, shimmering sphere of light, surrounded by a web of stars that seemed to stretch into infinity, forming a perfect orbit around it. Emma stared at the orb, her breath caught in her throat. It was more beautiful than anything she had ever seen, yet its beauty felt dangerous, as if it were too perfect, too delicate, to be real. It was the heart of the Dreambreakers' power, the place where their reality-bending abilities converged. And it was here, in the center of this enchanted orbit, that the fate of the universe would be decided. "This is it," Orion said softly, his voice filled with awe. He had been silent for most of the journey, his mind focused on the task ahead, but now there was a hint of reverence in his tone. "This is where the Dreambreakers' power originates. The nexus of their reality-warping abilities. It's not just a place. They've woven their influence into its very structure. The void, the stars, the silence, it all bends around this orbit." Emma's hand instinctively tightened around the Navigator's key. The warmth of it pulsed through her, and she felt a wave of clarity wash over her. She had learned so much, but there was still so much she didn't understand. The key had brought them this far, but now it felt as though it was waiting for her to understand its true purpose. To unlock something deeper, something more profound than simple destruction or restoration. "How do we stop them?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Orion's eyes locked with hers. The Dreambreakers have created a cycle here, a loop, an orbit. They've bound this place with their power, using it to fuel their existence and bend reality to their will. But that cycle is fragile. The key can break it, but only if we understand how to use it. We have to tap into the orbit itself, the gravitational pull of the universe, and redirect it. Emma felt the familiar hum of the key within her, as though it was reacting to Orion's words. The concept of orbit, of balance, suddenly clicked into place. This wasn't just about stopping the Dreambreakers, it was about understanding the cycle they had created and finding a way to unbind it. Redirect it? Emma repeated. But how? Orion's gaze softened, a quiet sadness in his eyes. The Dreambreakers have learned to manipulate the natural flow of the universe, time, space, gravity, and matter. They've twisted the cycles, causing them to loop in on themselves. We need to shift the orbit, to realign it with the natural flow of the universe. But we can't just destroy it, we need to restore the balance. We must make the orbit unstable in the right way, so that the Dreambreakers' control over it unravels. The boat moved closer to the central orb, drawn toward it by an unseen force. The closer they got, the more intense the gravitational pull became, the more the stars around them seemed to warp and distort. The void no longer felt empty, it felt alive, teeming with hidden energy, potential, and power. But it also felt unnatural, as if the very laws of the universe had been bent out of shape by the Dreambreakers' will. Emma could feel the pull of the orb, a force that seemed to draw everything into its orbit. She could feel it in her bones, the weight of the void, the crushing pressure of the distorted universe. But she also felt the key's pulse, steady and rhythmic, a heartbeat that counteracted the chaos around them. She closed her eyes, centering herself, drawing on the connection she had with the key. For a moment, there was a quiet stillness, a calm in the heart of the storm. Do you trust it? Orion's voice broke through her thoughts, soft, but carrying a weight of its own. Emma opened her eyes and looked at him. She saw in his gaze the same unspoken question. Could they really do this? Could they truly restore balance without unraveling everything? It was a leap of faith, one they could not make without risking everything. I trust it, she said, her voice unwavering. Orion nodded. Then we begin. The boat gently entered the orbit, the stars spinning faster around them, as if they were caught in the gravity of 1,000 worlds. Emma felt the key's energy surge within her, responding to the rhythm of the orbit. The gravitational pull increased, pressing against her chest, pulling at her thoughts. But she didn't resist. She let herself be drawn into the flow of the universe, letting the key guide her. Slowly, the orb in the center began to pulse more brightly, its light intensifying with each passing moment. The stars around them blurred into streams of light, forming an intricate web that seemed to stretch between worlds, connecting everything. The gravitational pull of the orbit tightened, and Emma felt herself slipping into a trance, the fabric of reality bending and warping around her. In that moment, she saw the Dreambreakers. They were not physical beings. At least, not in the way Emma had expected. They were like shadows, like ripples in the fabric of space-time itself. Their forms shifted and merged with the surrounding chaos, their presence like a distortion in the air. They were everywhere and nowhere, a manifestation of the void, the silence between stars. They were the embodiment of imbalance, of the twisting of natural laws. The key pulsed again, its light growing stronger, more insistent. Emma reached out with her mind, feeling the energy of the orb, the power of the void, and the Dreambreakers' influence. She focused on it, pulling the key's energy toward the heart of the orbit, toward the nexus where the Dreambreakers' power converged. And then, with a sudden, sharp crack, the orbit shifted. The stars around them exploded into light, a cascade of pure energy that shattered the cycle. The gravitational pull wavered, the fabric of reality rippling as the Dreambreakers' influence began to unravel. Emma felt the shift, the realignment of the universe's natural flow. The silence between stars was no longer oppressive, it was filled with the hum of creation, of possibility. The orbit was destabilized, but not destroyed. The key had done its work. But as the Dreambreakers' power began to dissipate, Emma could feel a shift within herself. The key, still pulsing with energy, had changed her. The paradox of the dreamer was not something that could be easily shaken. It had reshaped her understanding of reality itself. The universe was both fragile and resilient, and now she was part of it in a way she had never been before. The light of the orb began to fade, but it was no longer a threat. The cycle had been broken. The stars, once caught in their endless orbit, began to settle into their natural rhythms once more. The Dreambreakers were not gone, but their grip on the void had loosened. "Is it over?" Emma asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Orion didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out into the dissipating chaos, a faint smile on his lips. "No," he said softly. "But the universe has a chance again. And so do we." The stars, once trapped in their endless, unnatural orbit, now settled into their natural places, a quiet reassurance in the night sky. The sphere of light that had once been the heart of the Dreambreakers' power had dimmed, its brilliance fading like the last remnants of a fading dream. The universe, no longer bound by the grip of the Dreambreakers' twisted will, seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The weight of the silence between stars had lifted, and the stars themselves began to twinkle with life again. But Emma knew that this peace was fragile. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The Dreambreakers had been wounded, their power disrupted, but they had not been vanquished. As the boat drifted through the now stable orbit, Emma's thoughts turned to the path ahead. Orion stood beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon. His expression was pensive, but there was a flicker of hope in his gaze. "We've broken their control over the void," he said, his voice steady, but still carrying the weight of the journey. But we still need to find them. We still need to understand their true purpose, and how to stop them for good. Emma nodded, her hand resting on the Navigator's key. The light of the key pulsed steadily, as though it too had found its place in the realigned universe. It had guided them this far, but now the road ahead felt uncertain. She wondered if the key would show them the way, or if it had already led them to the edge of their destiny. The boat drifted through the vastness of space, the sound of its movement muffled by the absence of stars. It was a strange kind of silence, not oppressive, but serene, a quiet that held 1,000 untold stories, waiting to be discovered. As they glided through the stars, a sudden ripple of energy swept through the space around them. It was a sensation, a vibration that pulsed through the very air, a whisper from somewhere distant. Emma's heart skipped a beat, and she turned toward Orion. "Did you feel that?" she asked, her voice trembling with anticipation. Orion's eyes narrowed. "Yes. That's not just the after effect of the disruption. There's something else." Suddenly, the boat lurched forward, and the stars around them twisted. The once calm sky seemed to ripple, as if the fabric of space was folding in on itself. A light brighter than any star bloomed in the distance, and within it Emma saw a figure, a silhouette against the blinding light. It moved toward them, not with the speed of a physical entity, but with the fluid grace of something beyond time and space. The figure approached them slowly, as if walking through the vastness of the universe itself. As it came closer, Emma's heart raced. The figure seemed to shimmer, its form shifting, as though it were both here and elsewhere, existing in multiple places at once. Then, the light softened, and Emma could make out the figure's form, a being cloaked in flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with stardust, its face veiled by the cosmos itself. It was not human. It was not a Dreambreaker. It was something else entirely. "Who are you?" Emma asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. The figure spoke, its voice deep and resonant, echoing as if it came from all directions at once. "I am the astral guide, the keeper of the universe's pathways, the guardian of the stars' secrets." Orion stepped forward, his eyes wide with awe. "The astral guide. You're a being of the old order, one who existed before the Dreambreakers came. We've been seeking you." The astral guide nodded, its robes shifting like the movement of galaxies. "I have watched you, Emma. Watched your journey through the shadows and the light. The Dreambreakers may have twisted the fabric of reality, but they have not erased the paths that connect all things. You have walked through the storms of time and space, but your journey is far from over." Emma felt a shiver of both fear and wonder. The astral guide was not just a being of the stars, it was part of something much older, something that predated the Dreambreakers and their reign of chaos. It was a guardian, a keeper of knowledge that spanned beyond the limits of her understanding. "You've been guiding us," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But why? What do you want from us?" The astral guide's presence seemed to deepen, and Emma felt as though it was reading her thoughts, seeing through her very soul. I do not seek anything from you, Emma. I am not a force of will, nor a being of desire. I am the echo of the stars, the guardian of balance. The Dreambreakers are not the true threat you face. They are a symptom of a deeper disturbance in the fabric of the cosmos. A distortion that is far older, far more dangerous. Orion stepped closer, his brow furrowed with confusion. Then what is the true threat? What is the source of this disturbance? The astral guide's form rippled, its voice soft but resonant. The Dreambreakers are but a reflection of a deeper force, an ancient, primal force that seeks to rewrite the laws of the universe itself. A force that feeds on imbalance and chaos. Their true goal is not just to control space and time, but to reshape them. To create a new order, one that would erase the stars, the galaxies, and all that exists. They want to strip away the paths that bind the universe together and create a reality of their own design. Emma felt the weight of those words settle over her like a dark cloud. The Dreambreakers weren't just invaders, they were trying to remake everything. They were trying to destroy the balance, the very essence of existence. But how can we stop them? Emma asked, her voice filled with urgency. The astral guide looked at her with infinite wisdom, its gaze piercing through time. You have already begun the process of restoration, Emma. The key you carry holds the power to realign the cycles, to restore the flow of the universe. But it is not enough. You must learn to wield it fully, to understand its connection to the astral currents that bind all things. To do that, you must seek the source of the disturbance, the heart of the chaos. Only then can you destroy the Dreambreakers' hold on the universe. The stars around them seemed to shift in response to the astral guide's words, as though the universe itself was reacting. A star in the distance blinked out of existence, and Emma felt a coldness creep into her chest. The time was coming. The final battle, the one that would decide the fate of everything, was approaching. Where do we go from here? Orion asked, his voice steady, but filled with determination. The astral guide pointed toward a distant cluster of stars, their light pulsing erratically. The heart of the disturbance lies beyond the veil of time. It is a place where the fabric of the universe itself thins, where the past, present, and future converge. There you will find what you seek. But be warned, the path is treacherous. The veil is not a place for the unprepared. Emma felt her heart race, the weight of the journey ahead pressing down on her. But she knew that there was no turning back. The universe was waiting for her to act. "We're ready," she said, her voice filled with resolve. The astral guide nodded, and with a final, knowing glance, it faded into the starlight, leaving Emma and Orion alone with their thoughts. The boat began to move again, drawn toward the distant stars. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain: the final stage of their journey had begun. The boat sailed through the quiet expanse of space, its hull cutting through the silence like a whisper. Emma's mind raced with the words of the astral guide, the promise of a path beyond the veil of time. The heart of the disturbance, where the past, present, and future converge, waited ahead, but it felt like a place suspended between reality and dreams, a place she wasn't entirely sure she could reach. Orion stood beside her, his arms crossed, his gaze distant but steady. He had been quiet ever since their encounter with the astral guide, lost in thought. Emma could sense the weight of his own unresolved questions, but there was no time to ask them. They both knew that every moment counted now. The universe, in all its fragile beauty, hung in the balance. The stars around them began to pulse with greater intensity, their light fluctuating like the heartbeat of the cosmos. Emma's fingers twitched around the Navigator's key. It had been her constant companion, guiding them through countless unknowns, and now, more than ever, she could feel its power surging beneath her fingertips. But the questions were still there. Was she truly ready for what lay ahead? Could she wield the key in the way the astral guide had described? Before she could voice her thoughts, a strange sensation washed over her, a feeling she hadn't experienced before. It was a pull, a subtle but undeniable force drawing her attention to something far in the distance. It was as though the very fabric of space was shifting, rearranging itself in a way that felt familiar. "Do you feel that?" she asked, turning to Orion. Orion's eyes narrowed as he felt the shift. "Yes. It's strange, but it's not a disturbance. It's something, someone." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Someone? The voice of the astral guide echoed in her mind. The heart of the chaos lies beyond the veil of time. But this wasn't the veil. This was something else, something that felt personal. Before she could ask another question, the pull became stronger, more insistent. The stars themselves seemed to bend toward it, creating a pathway in the sky. It was like an opening, a tear in the fabric of time and space. And through it, Emma saw a figure emerging, vague at first, but quickly becoming clearer. "Who is that?" she asked, her voice trembling with both anticipation and a growing sense of unease. Orion's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "It can't be. No, it's impossible." Emma's breath caught in her throat. The figure in the distance was no longer a shadow, but a real, tangible presence, someone she knew. As the figure grew closer, Emma's heart pounded in her chest. It was a man, tall and regal, with a presence that seemed to fill the space around him. He wore a cloak made of starlight, his face partially obscured by the hood. But there was no mistaking him. His eyes, those deep, silver eyes, could only belong to one person. "Jonah?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling. The figure's head turned toward her, and a faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "Hello, Emma." Jonah. It had been so long since she'd last seen him. Years, in fact. He had disappeared from her life, lost to the swirling chaos of space and time, vanishing without a trace when she had needed him most. He had been her anchor, her guide when they were younger, the one who had taught her everything about the stars and the great unknown. But then, he was gone. Disappeared into the void without explanation. But here he was, standing before her, as if no time had passed at all. "I thought I'd never see you again," Emma said, her voice thick with emotion. "Where have you been? What happened to you?" Jonah stepped closer, his presence reassuring and comforting, yet there was something different about him now. He seemed more ethereal, his form flickering like a mirage in the light of the stars. "I was lost," he said simply, his voice carrying a weight that echoed through the cosmos. "Lost in the currents of time, cast adrift by forces beyond my understanding." "But you're here now," Orion said, his voice a mix of relief and suspicion. "How is this possible?" Jonah turned his gaze to Orion, and for a moment, Emma could see the flicker of recognition in his eyes. The veil of time is not a barrier, it is a doorway. Time is a river, and those who know how to navigate it can slip through its currents. I have been traveling, caught between moments, trying to find my way back. "Back to what?" Emma asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Back to me?" Jonah's eyes softened, and he nodded. "Yes, Emma. Back to you. I've watched you, from the other side, through the cracks in time. I knew you would come here. I knew this moment was inevitable. Why didn't you come sooner?" Emma's voice trembled, the frustration of all those lost years surfacing. "Why didn't you stop this? Why didn't you?" Jonah raised a hand, gently silencing her. "I couldn't. Not until now. The universe had to be aligned for this moment to happen. The stars, the paths, everything had to fall into place." He paused, his eyes scanning the horizon, the vastness of space seeming to reflect in his gaze. "And now, Emma, we have a chance. A chance to stop the Dreambreakers. A chance to restore the balance." Emma felt a surge of hope rise within her, the weight of her burden suddenly lightened by the presence of Jonah. But another question lingered at the back of her mind. "If you've been watching me, Jonah, then you know about the Dreambreakers. You know what they want. What can we do to stop them?" Jonah's expression darkened, and for a moment, the stars around them flickered, as though they too felt the weight of his words. "The Dreambreakers are not the true enemy, Emma. They are servants of a much older force. A force that lives within the cracks of time and space, a force that has always been there, waiting for the right moment to strike." Emma's pulse quickened. "What is this force? What are we up against?" Jonah's gaze turned serious, his voice low but filled with undeniable gravity. "We are up against the echo of creation itself. The Dreambreakers serve an ancient entity, an entity that was there at the birth of the universe. They are the harbingers of entropy, the agents of decay, and their master seeks to unravel all of existence, returning everything to the void of nothingness. Your mission, Emma, is not just to stop the Dreambreakers, but to confront this force at the heart of creation and restore the first balance. Only then can the universe be saved. Emma felt the enormity of his words settle in her chest. The stakes had never been higher. The Dreambreakers, the void, the heart of creation, they were all pieces of a puzzle she was only beginning to understand. And now, Jonah was back to help her put the pieces together. She nodded, her voice filled with determination. Then let's do it. We have no time to waste. Jonah smiled, his form flickering like a star about to burn out. We'll need to work together. The path ahead will not be easy. But you are not alone anymore. As the boat drifted toward the heart of the disturbance, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The lost traveler had returned. And together, they would face the final battle. The boat sailed onward, its direction now clear, drawn inexorably toward the heart of the disturbance. With Jonah at her side, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose, as though the weight of the universe had shifted slightly in their favor. The stars around them seemed to pulse in anticipation, as if they were aware of the journey ahead. Time itself seemed to bend in their wake, as though the very fabric of reality was beginning to fold upon itself. Jonah had been quiet since their exchange, his eyes distant as though he was searching for something beyond the immediate universe. Emma didn't press him. She could feel the immense gravity of his words settling into the core of her being. The Dreambreakers, mere servants to a far greater and older force, a force that had existed since the dawn of creation itself. And now, this force sought to return everything to nothingness. The boat's journey took them through star systems that seemed to fade into the background as they approached the veil of time. The very fabric of space and time began to warp, creating ripples in the stars around them. The celestial body that had once been their steady guide, the Navigator's key, began to pulse with a stronger, more urgent light. Its glow illuminated their path, casting a pale, ethereal light across the boat, and Emma's grip tightened around it. "Do you feel that?" Emma asked, her voice trembling slightly. Jonah turned to her, his expression still calm but filled with an unmistakable awareness. "Yes. The veil of time. It's closer than I thought. We're nearing the place where the currents of time flow in and out, a place where the very concept of time ceases to make sense." Emma glanced out into the void. The stars around them seemed to shimmer and blur, as though they were stretching toward infinity. The edges of space and time were folding in on themselves, twisting and turning like a massive vortex. The boat itself began to tremble, not from any physical force, but from the strange, intangible forces pulling at the very structure of the universe. "This is it," Jonah murmured, his voice filled with awe. "We're crossing the threshold." Emma looked back at him. "What do we do now?" Jonah stepped closer to the edge of the boat, his gaze fixed on the swirling vortex ahead. We trust the key. We trust the path it will show us. But we must be prepared for what lies beyond the veil. Time doesn't exist in the same way here. We will see the past, the present, and the future all at once. And in this place, it is not the laws of physics that govern us, but the laws of creation. Emma felt the weight of his words settle into her chest. She gripped the key tighter and stepped forward. The boat surged forward, cutting through the strange currents of time. The stars around them bled into one another, their light becoming indistinct as if they were fading into oblivion. The universe around them seemed to bend, like the surface of a water ripple, and Emma could feel her heart race as they entered the veil. And then, without warning, everything changed. They were no longer traveling through the endless void of space. They were traveling through moments, flickers of the past, present, and future, intertwined, overlapping, blending into one another. Emma saw flashes of her own life, moments she had long forgotten, childhood dreams, the first time she had met Jonah, the moment she had lost him, the very first time she had heard of the Dreambreakers. The memories came at her like a storm, vivid and real, yet distorted, as though they were distant echoes in the vast ocean of time. Beside her, Orion stood, his brow furrowed in confusion. He reached out, as if trying to grasp something solid, but the fleeting images dissolved as quickly as they appeared. "Is this real?" Orion asked, his voice a mixture of wonder and disbelief. "How can we navigate through all of this?" Jonah turned to him, a somber expression on his face. "This is the veil of time, Orion. It's not a place for the faint of heart. Here, everything is fluid. The past, the present, and the future all converge. We must stay focused. The key will guide us." Emma looked down at the Navigator's key. Its light pulsed rhythmically, its glow cutting through the storm of images and memories. As they sailed deeper into the veil, the key seemed to resonate with the very fabric of time itself. It was more than just a guide, it was a key to understanding the universe. Emma could feel its power more keenly than ever before, as if it was unlocking hidden truths, showing her the connections between the stars, the past, and the future. They passed through moments, glimpses of futures that had not yet come to pass, and pasts that were long forgotten. Emma saw herself as a child, sitting by the fire with Jonah, listening to him speak of the stars, his voice filled with wonder and excitement. She saw him disappear into the stars, and then the darkness of the void as the Dreambreakers took control. She saw a future where they had succeeded, where the stars shone brighter, and the darkness of entropy was pushed back. It was all there, swirling in front of her, but none of it felt real, not in the way that life did. It was all just potential, an endless array of possibilities, some already lived, some yet to be. "We're almost there," Jonah said, his voice breaking through the chaos of visions. "We're approaching the heart of the disturbance, the source of the imbalance. It's just beyond this." Emma nodded, though she wasn't entirely sure what beyond meant in a place where time didn't function in the way it did outside the veil. She felt a strange pull in her chest, a magnetic force drawing her towards something else. The key pulsed in her hand, as though it could feel the presence of that something. The boat plunged forward, and for a brief moment, everything went dark. For a long moment, there was nothing. No stars, no time, no space. The boat, the key, the swirling chaos of the veil, they were all suspended in a silent void, a place beyond the bounds of existence. Emma's heart raced, her breath shallow as she gripped the navigator's key, its glow now dim, as though it too had fallen into this strange, timeless place. "Jonah?" she whispered, her voice barely a murmur in the oppressive silence. She could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on her. This was the edge of everything, the place where the universe would either be restored or undone. "Where are we?" Jonah's voice broke through the quiet, calm yet laced with something ancient, something profound. "We are at the heart of everything, Emma. The heart of the universe. The beginning and the end. This is the point where all things converge, the place where all forces, all creation, and all destruction find their origin. It is both the source of life and the end of all things." Emma felt a chill run through her as the gravity of his words settled into her bones. The heart of the universe? Was this the place the Dreambreakers sought to return everything to? The darkness, the void? Should they truly face whatever lay ahead? Before she could voice her thoughts, a light appeared before them. At first, it was a distant glow, faint and flickering, like a dying star. But it grew, slowly, becoming brighter, more focused. And as it grew, Emma could feel something shift in the air, a pull, a beckoning. The light seemed to have a magnetic quality, like it was drawing them toward it, towards something alive. "It's time," Jonah said quietly. "We're about to confront the source of it all. The force that lies at the heart of creation. But be warned, Emma, the nature of this place is unlike anything you've encountered. Here, there is no distinction between light and dark, creation and destruction. It all exists as one." Orion stood silently by, his gaze fixed on the light ahead. Emma looked at him, searching for any sign of the fear or doubt she felt in her own heart. But his expression was calm, focused, and full of resolve. She knew that, whatever happened next, they would face it together. As the boat moved closer to the light, Emma could see its true form, a swirling, luminous mass at the center of the universe, vast and unfathomable. It was not a star, not a galaxy, but something beyond them. It pulsed rhythmically, each beat sending a wave of energy throughout the space around them. The very fabric of reality seemed to ripple with each movement of the light. "This is it," Emma murmured, her hand tightening around the navigator's key. "This is the source of the imbalance. The heart of the Dreambreakers." Jonah nodded solemnly, his face unreadable. "It is much more than that. The Dreambreakers are merely the agents of its will. This force, it existed before time, before space, before any of us. It is the first pulse of creation, and it is now at the brink of unraveling all that it has woven into existence. Emma's mind swirled. The universe was not just in danger of destruction, it was in danger of returning to nothingness. She thought back to the moment when she had first felt the disturbance in the stars, when the Dreambreakers had come for her world. All of it, the endless battles, the journey through time, the encounters with strange forces, had led them to this singular moment. The true battle was not against the Dreambreakers themselves, but against the very foundation of reality. The light ahead flickered again, brighter, more intense, and Emma felt a wave of energy wash over her, a sudden, overwhelming sense of presence. This was not a place for living beings, it was a place beyond the reach of their understanding. Yet, in this place, she felt more alive than ever before, as though she could hear the very pulse of the universe. Every star, every planet, every fleeting moment, all of it was part of this energy. "Do you see it?" Jonah whispered, his voice barely audible in the vastness of the space around them. Emma nodded. She saw it now, the shape within the light, a massive presence that seemed to transcend all physical form. It was as if the light itself was alive, swirling with consciousness, as though the very idea of existence had taken shape before her. "It's the heart," Jonah said, his voice almost reverential. "The primal source. It is not just the end, it is also the beginning. Everything that exists, every star, every world, every living creature, is connected to it. It is the seed of all creation, and at the same time, it is the force that will return all creation to the void." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Then, how do we stop it?" Jonah's expression darkened. "We cannot stop it, Emma. We must balance it." A wave of understanding hit Emma with the force of a tidal wave. The Dreambreakers, the void, everything that had been happening, the imbalance, had not been an attempt to destroy the universe. It was an attempt to return it to its original state. But to do so would mean erasing everything that had come after, the stars, the planets, the lives lived, the stories told. It would mean nothingness. The answer, then, was not to destroy the heart. It was to restore the balance. "Balance," Emma repeated, feeling the weight of the word. It was the only way forward. The key, the force that had guided her so far, was the key to unlocking that balance. But how? How could she, a single person, achieve something so monumental? Jonah met her gaze, as if reading her thoughts. "The key can restore the balance, Emma. It is the only thing that can. But you must choose it. Choose the balance. Choose life." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her. There was no more running, no more avoiding the inevitable. The universe was at a crossroads, and the answer lay in her hands. The key was not just a tool, it was a decision. The decision to let the universe continue, to let life persist, to find harmony between the forces of creation and destruction. She stepped forward, raising the key high. Its glow intensified, becoming blinding, filling the space with light so pure and bright that it seemed to cut through the very fabric of time and space. As she held the key, the light around them began to stabilize, the chaotic currents of time and energy coming into alignment. For a long moment, there was silence. And then, as the light began to subside, Emma felt the deep, resounding hum of the universe's pulse. She had made the choice. The balance had been restored. The heart of the universe shuddered, as if acknowledging the decision, and slowly, the light began to fade, returning the stars, the planets, and the vastness of space to its natural rhythm. The disturbance was gone. The Dreambreakers, now nothing more than echoes of a distant, forgotten time, faded away. Emma turned to Jonah, who smiled at her, his form now flickering like a fading star. "You did it," he said softly. "You restored the balance." Emma looked around at the stars, now clear and steady once again. The universe, in all its complexity, had returned to its natural state. But she knew that the journey wasn't over. There would always be forces at play, always a need for balance. And as for her, she had found her place, her purpose. She had restored the heart of the universe. The journey was not just about saving the stars. It was about understanding that balance was the key to existence itself. Emma, Orion, and Jonah looked out at the vastness together. The universe had found its home once again. And with it, so had they.